He typed and muttered, "I want to be like the Flame Emperor." He stared intently at his phone, repeating, "I want to be like the Flame Emperor. I want to be like the Flame Emperor. I want to be like the Flame Emperor." The reporter's interviewing voice briefly echoed. "So Flame Emperor," he whispered. "He's so amazing that everyone pays attention to his every word. I heard he's also very rich. I'm so jealous on TV." The Flame Emperor snatched the mic from the reporter, his voice full of annoyance. "Don't call me Flame Emperor anymore. Call me by my name." He thought if the world were a novel, someone like him would surely be the protagonist. The image of the proud Flame Emperor standing atop a pile of monster corpses appeared in his mind. He dejectedly thought, "And me. An extra who can't even be a supporting character." On TV, the reporter hesitantly asked, "So to conclude, may I ask one last question for our viewers?" Hearing that, Dronzer quickly focused on the screen. At the scene, all eyes were on the Flame Emperor. The reporter continued, "There are many hard-working hunter candidates who are inspired by you. Yoon Soo-ha, he's a famous figure with hundreds of articles written about him. He continued to praise him, awakening a skill as soon as he entered the tower when he was only 20 years old, defeating the undefeated 10-year boss in just 1 month. You are truly a legendary hunter." The reporter held the microphone towards the Flame Emperor and asked, "And to aspiring young hunters, can you give them a small tip, a secret to achieving success?" He casually rubbed his neck and sighed. He quickly lunged at the screen, his eyes glued to it. He spoke, "All right, I'll only say this once, so listen if you want." Yoon Soo-ha looked directly into the camera and coldly stated, "For all those who are destined to succeed, they will succeed." Dronzer looked attentively, sweat running down his face. The Flame Emperor calmly said, "But even if you succeed, do not look down on me." He subtly smirked, his voice laced with killing intent. "Otherwise you will die." He arrogantly turned and walked away. Many people managed to capture the moment as cameras and flashes continuously clicked. The reporter was astonished. "Flame Emperor, Flame Emperor." He sat motionless, a voice echoing from the computer. "What does he mean, Flame Emperor?" And with that, we will end our special report. The program continued, dear viewers. He slammed the laptop lid shut. Dronzer bowed his head, the room sinking into silence. Tears streamed down his cheeks as he choked out, "He makes me so mad." He dejectedly looked at the wall covered with articles about the Flame Emperor, then whispered, "If he succeeds, he has the right to look down on others. It's like he's looking down on me." Not the reporter. He touched the wall, his voice filled with despair. "If only I had the Flame Emperor's talent, how great that would be." Images of his shabby, trash-filled room and the mocking laughter of other hunters appeared in his mind. He mumbled, "If that were the case, I wouldn't have to live in this tiny one-room apartment. I wouldn't be an F-rank hunter with no skills, and I wouldn't be looked down on like this." Dronzer tore up the newspaper, shouting furiously, "I want to be like the Flame Emperor." Tears welled up, his voice choked. "I'm so jealous, I want to succeed with my own power too." From the small window, a beam of light appeared. He crumpled before the wall, sobbing, or at least, if the Flame Emperor's skill were mine, how good that would be. The light became blinding, making the entire room bright. He looked up in surprise, exclaiming, "Huh!" A card flew into the light and its glow illuminated the entire room. He hesitated. This is... Videos of sudden awakeners appeared in his mind. He told himself, "I have seen it thousands of times in videos." Looking at the card hovering before his eyes, he excitedly thought, could it be a skill card? The card's notification appeared, an unprecedented envious soul. Dronzer stared blankly, exclaiming in astonishment. The next notification appeared. The tower is very surprised by your envy and gives you a skill he did not understand quickly. Stammering, wait a minute. In videos, the notifications for awakeners are usually positive. It is often the tower is moved by your will. The tower rewards your continuous training. The tower praises your achievements. He panicked. This is different from the skill awakenings I have seen in videos. He stood up, reassuring himself, it does not matter if the wording is different. He looked at the fancy card shining in front of him, thinking, this is the skill I have longed for, and a gold card. He swallowed nervously, reaching out his hand towards it. He gripped the card tightly, silently, hoping for an S-rank skill or above. A new notification appeared. Skill card creation card description displayed. I want to be like that person. Rank S+ effect. Automatically activates when killed by an enemy. You copy one skill from the enemy that killed you and make it your own. You will not be able to copy from an opponent. You have previously copied from the copied skill will be chosen randomly, however you must die. Gongja's eyes widened. He whispered, copy a skill from the enemy that killed you and make it your own. His face turned pale fear, clearly visible tears streamed down his cheeks as he mumbled, however. He stared at the last line of the notification. However you must die. He yelled furiously, what kind of monstrous skill is this? A tower, with a bizarre and terrifying shape, suddenly appeared. The tower has unexpectedly appeared in our world. You can see it from everywhere in the world. When it first appeared, it attracted everyone's attention. The reckless were the first to set foot in the tower and learn what was inside it. Inside was a completely different world. It was filled with strange and dangerous creatures. Each floor of the tower was full of monsters from other worlds. And for some people who have been chosen by the tower skills will appear. There were also other people who heard the news and gathered at the tower to hunt monsters. Scene change. The Flame. Emperor confronts a giant snake. He defeats it easily. The person being interviewed states, once I saw the Flame Emperor fighting in the monster hunting zone. On TV, that person excitedly said he held a fire spear and looked like he was dancing. He was like Nataraja. It felt like the embodiment of Shiva. Kim Gongja groaned, manager. Can we watch something else? The manager, with his hand resting on his chin, boredly asked why this is good. The TV continued to blare, even achieving first rank. He is still like that. It is so comfortable that he does not keep his distance. He asked him, you do not like the Flame Emperor? He dejectedly slumped on the table, muttering no. It is not that the other person continued to praise a person. Like that is truly the hero humanity needs right now. Gongja mumbled, some people have such good lives, so why is my life so pathetic? The manager sighed, then secretly thought this drunkard. He gloomily said, listen to me. Yesterday's memories flooded back, his voice full of resentment. Yesterday I received an S+ rank skill, but what kind of monstrous skill only works when I die? He clenched his fists, shaking with anger. He said, that is also why I did not report it to the Hunter Association. He slammed the table, annoyed, because if I said that trash was my skill, I would probably die of shame. The manager saw him like that and angrily yelled, go outside and vomit. Hurry up. He wearily dragged himself home. The notification board appeared. Today's Hunter rankings were still the same. Nothing had changed. His face was pale. He rubbed his head and thought, ugh, my head hurts so much it feels like it is splitting. Suddenly he heard a desperate scream. In an alley, Gongja saw the Flame Emperor and the Saintess. He quickly hid. Her voice was full of panic. Please move away, Flame Emperor. Why are you suddenly? He looked at her mockingly and then said, wow, you are a good actress. If someone were watching, they would probably think you were the victim here. Seeing her frightened expression, he calmly said, Saintess, I have poisoned your drink. He held out a small bottle and said, basilisk stomach acid is what you poisoned me with. Isabella remained silent, her face clearly showing tension. He casually tossed the bottle away, stepping closer. How terrible if it were not for my skill. Things would surely have been bad. The vial of medicine fell to the ground and shattered, the liquid splattering everywhere. She hesitated to explain, it is just a misunderstanding. Flame Emperor. I just wanted to attack the tower with you. He smiled, his voice deepening. I thought so too, but it seems I was wrong. She trembled, begging, please let us negotiate. Let us resolve the misunderstanding. Gongja thought in horror, what they are not. Are they dating? That is not right. What kind of couple talks like that? If so, then... He grabbed her neck calmly, saying, negotiate, that sounds good. All right, I am a generous person, but I will decide the rules of this conversation. He tried not to make a sound, thinking fearfully, a negotiation between someone who wants to kill and someone who does not want to be killed. He pressed her against the wall. The Saintess tried to struggle but could not escape. He calmly said, I will be the one asking the questions, and you just need to answer by nodding. I have a lie detection skill, so do not talk nonsense to me. If you are honest, I might give you the antidote. He was horrified by this scene, sweat pouring down his head. The Flame Emperor asked, answer me, who ordered you to kill me? His voice turned sharp. Was it the Witch of the Black Dragon? The previous interview appeared in his mind, even achieving first rank. He was always like that. It was so comforting that he was not distant from others. The Saintess bowed her head, avoiding his gaze. She closed her eyes tightly and nodded. At that reaction, he contemptuously said, I guessed as much. The sound of the TV seemed to pass by. A person like that is truly the hero humanity needs right now. Fire rose from his hand. He growled goodbye, Saintess Isabella. The flames burned fiercely. A scream echoed through the alley. Witnessing this brutal scene, Gongja was stunned, thinking a hero. Looking at the man in the sea of fire like a devil who had just emerged from hell, he secretly thought this guy, how... He quickly ran away, thinking in panic, a murderer, a psychopath. He burst into tears. Ugh! He thought in fear, I have to run immediately. Due to being too panicked, he accidentally stepped on a wine bottle nearby. His entire body stiffened. The Flame Emperor stood behind him. He laughed and said, oh, his voice filled with killing intent. I thought I had cleared all the rats around here, but there is still one. Gongja's heart seemed to stop. He thought that is the look of a killer. He ran away. He leisurely followed him. He thought the Saintess was not his first kill. How many people has he killed so far? He ran frantically, silently, guessing dozens, hundreds, or... Gongja lost his balance, fell heavily to the ground, and cried out. He could no longer feel his legs. He gasped quickly, turning his head to check. He saw his leg not far away. He whispered, my leg. The Flame Emperor slowly approached. He felt despair, only able to cry out in fear. Gongja whispered, please spare me the flame. Emperor gave a cold laugh and said, Tisk, do not run. He trembled and said, please spare me. Flame Emperor, please. He glanced at him and asked, hey, did you see? His whole body trembled, his face pale. He stammered, I did not see anything. I did not see anything. I did not see anything. He knelt down, teasing him, you did not see what? He squeezed his neck tightly, sarcastically, saying, you mean you were running and calling the Flame Emperor by coincidence, and by coincidence you appeared at the right time and place, and you did not see anything. Damn, that sounds pretty reasonable. If I were an idiot, I would probably believe you, he tried to whisper. I swear, I will not tell anyone. Uonsua smiled, but his eyes were full of killing intent, his voice deep. If you do not want to end up like the Saintess, answer me properly. He thought to himself, the devil. He interrogated Gongja, who told you to come. Are you from the Black Dragon Guild? He thought, has the world gone crazy for someone like this? He stammered, lie detection skill. He looked at him in surprise. His whole body trembled. He hesitantly explained, I heard you have it. If you use it, you will know that I am really not lying. He contemptuously asked, what kind of dog shit is that? He recalled the articles about the Saintess's achievements and contributions, trembling, so you killed her without any certainty. Gongja looked at him desperately just because she was a little suspicious. He pushed him away forcefully, annoyed. Hey, how dare you say such hurtful words? Do I look like that? He cried out in pain. Yun-Suha continued, the Saintess really intended to kill me. If I did not kill her first tomorrow, I would be poisoned by her. He panicked, rubbing his neck hesitantly, saying, how do you know? He confidently declared, I know because I have my ways. He laughed loudly, rubbing his head and saying, and since you mentioned the lie detection skill, you must really be innocent. He forced a smile and replied, thank you. Thank you for believing me. He suddenly activated his skill, his voice deepening. But you have seen too much. Before his eyes there was only his chilling smile, and the sea of fire behind him. He thought, no, he calmly said so, I need you to die. Also, my name is Yun-Suha. Farewell. In his last moments he recalled childhood memories, the words of advice echoing in his ears. Kim Gongja, your name is Gongja, you must become a great person like Confucius. And his confident expression when he replied, yes, sir. He thought unwillingly, I do not want to die like this. The notification appeared, you have died. Gongja thought, why do I have to die like this? No, why do I have to live like this? A new notification appeared, you have died, the conditions for the skill have been met. He thought to himself, I should have lived better. The notification continued to display, randomly copying Yun-Suha's skill. The notification transformed skill card creation. 8 cards suddenly appeared. He looked up, thinking to himself, I have the right to live better. The notification displayed, please choose a skill card. The cards flew wildly in the air. He reached out his hand and thought, if given another chance. Gongja tightly grasped the gold card, thinking to himself, just one. The notifications continuously appeared. Selection complete, skill copied. He started opening his eyes wide. A voice echoed from the computer. This is the Babylon News report. Live broadcast: the Black Dragon Guild has launched an attack on the 40th floor of the tower. Will they show us the skills of a top guild this time? He was lying on his bed in his cramped apartment. The news continued to blare, but unfortunately they returned empty-handed. Gongja was startled, sitting up quickly, checking his leg, muttering, "What is it?" Suddenly his whole body stiffened, sweat pouring down his head. The news switched to the Flame Emperor once again. The Flame Emperor attacked the boss alone. He panicked. What is happening? Gongja looked around in a panic, muttering, "What is happening?" He looked at the newspapers on the wall, panicked. When did I get home? He quickly looked down at his phone online. People were talking about the Flame Emperor's recent interview. A netizen commented, "The Flame Emperor has become the stupid Flame Emperor again," he exclaimed in surprise. "Huh?" On the screen, the interview program continued to play. He snatched the mic. Annoyed Flame Emperor. "Why do you keep calling me that stupid name? I have a proper name." Gongja was surprised, his forehead dotted with sweat. His eyes fixed on the screen. He whispered, "Why is everyone saying the same thing as yesterday?" Memories of the moment before death flooded back like a vivid nightmare. His chilling smile clearly visible, the fierce sea of fire raging violently, as if to burn everything, including the feeling when he tightly grasped the card. Everything felt like it had just happened. The image was too real. He blankly reached out his hand in midair. Gongja quickly ordered open skill panel skill cards. Open 2 skill cards appeared. He looked at the skill the tower granted him, muttering to himself, "One is the most useless skill of the century." He looked at the second skill card in surprise and exclaimed, "This is," he thought to himself, "no way, this is the Flame Emperor's skill that I copied when I died." The notification displayed Regressor's Pocket Watch Rank X effect automatically activates upon death. You will return 24 hours before your death memories, and experience points are preserved upon return. However, the higher the rank, the greater your penalty skill, copied from Yoon Suha. He stared at the notification, then swallowed a mouthful of saliva, saying in horror, "I automatically returned to the day before I died." He panicked, touching the wall covered with newspapers, stunned, while still having memories and experience points. He thought to himself, "Regression," he whispered. "Is this the secret to becoming a legendary hunter?" Gongja pondered. So that is why he killed the Saintess. He recalled his confident appearance, that arrogant voice still echoing in his ears. "I know I have my ways." He secretly concluded that is because he was truly poisoned by the Saintess the next day. Gongja gritted his teeth, clenching his hands into fists, his heart boiling with hatred, and even I, a completely innocent person also. The reporter's voice brought him back to reality. He asked, "So to conclude, may I ask one more question for our audience?" On the computer screen, the Flame Emperor calmly said, "Ultimately, those who are destined to succeed will succeed. But even if you succeed, do not look down on me." He glared at him. His voice coldly echoed, "You will die," his mind filled with resentment, his eyes burning, fixed on him. He calmly muttered, "Die." He closed the skill card. His voice filled with determination. "Let us see who will die this time." Suddenly, someone outside shouted loudly, "Shoot!" He quickly turned towards the window. From the window frame he saw a large red blaze in the distance, accompanied by the panicked screams of the crowd. "Oh no! What should we do?" He gripped the knife tightly in his hand, quickly stepping outside. Everyone rushed, carrying fire extinguishers and buckets of water, running frantically, trying to put out the raging fire. They shouted, "Do not just stand there, go, put out the fire." Others quickly replied, "Okay." He cautiously approached silently, thinking the place I live is different from the outside world, a city built by those who entered the tower to become hunters. Before his eyes, the distant apartment complex was engulfed in bright red flames, thick black smoke billowing high the first floor of the tower. He quickly rushed to the scene, pulling out his phone. He glanced at the screen and muttered, "What time is it?" Many people rushed towards the fire, some frantically putting out the fire. Others stood on the sidelines, holding up their phones to film. Gongja looked at the time and quietly thought, "It is almost time for me to get drunk." The fire was caused by the Flame Emperor to destroy murder evidence. Everyone was working together to put out the fire. Someone said those with water-type skills do not use skills individually. Another agreed, yes, cooperate with others. The Black Witch stepped forward to guide the crowd. She loudly said, "The Black Dragon Guild will temporarily take responsibility here. Everyone please listen to our commands now." Personal information appeared. Rank 2. Black Dragon Guild Leader. Black Witch. He thought to himself, this city has many names. Alchemy quickly reported this area has been sealed off, but there might be people still alive inside. Send in a rescue team. Personal information appeared rank 5. Alchemist Guild Leader. He thought to himself, some people call it Babylon, others call it the first floor city. Everyone tried to combine their skills. Paladin calmly said, that is not the problem. This place has been isolated for 5 years. We are very lucky. Personal information appeared rank 10, City Knight Federation Leader Paladin. He sarcastically thought some people also call it the City of Death. But anyway, basically, it is the same. A city that once entered cannot be exited. Everyone quickly called out, send more people. Fire suppressors. Here is no one using water anymore. He ran to the biggest fire, whispering to himself, the citizens of this city are all used to situations like this. He suddenly heard others discussing it. Is strange why has not the Saintess arrived yet? She is not the type to be late in an emergency. Paladin curiously said to Alchemy, she said she had something to do tonight. Maybe she is busy dating lately. I have seen her with the Flame Emperor a lot. Alchemy's voice deepened. She worriedly said, I do not like him. There is something about him that makes me uncomfortable. The chaotic crowd suddenly fell silent. Everyone's eyes simultaneously turned to the back. The Flame Emperor slowly walked in, gruffly saying, damn it. He scratched his head and calmly said, what dog is playing with fire without my permission? He gritted his teeth, thinking with hatred, he is here. Paladin spoke. Thank you for coming, Flame Emperor. He waved his hand and said, yes, I was nearby. Paladin continued, as you can see the fire started from the old slum. Can you help us? He sneered and sarcastically said, what do I get for helping? He tightly gripped the knife, thinking indignantly that madman he is the arsonist and he dares to ask for a reward. The crowd's eyes converged on the two men ceaselessly holding up their phones to record the tense scene. Paladin tried to persuade him. You will be number one, and the one who saved them. You will be publicly grateful. He sarcastically said, you think I care what others think of me in his mind. The remarks he had heard about him flashed. Who cares what his personality is like? He is already a legendary hunter. I am just telling the truth. Everyone knows what kind of person he is. He waved his hand indifferently, then turned and walked away, casually saying, I refuse to do charity. See you later. Leaving behind a stirred crowd, dozens of phones still pointed at him. A thought suddenly popped into his head. It is great to see he is not aloof, he thought desperately. No one knows the truth. Gongja looked at him with hatred, quietly thinking, everyone just thinks the Flame Emperor is a slightly eccentric hero, and yet, he looked past his relaxed demeanor, his shadow walking leisurely in his mind. The scene of him coldly striking him down was clear. He hated him, thinking, but I am the only one who knows his true nature, a cold-blooded killer. His heart was filled with resentment. He told himself, I must kill him. He turned towards the fire. A young man standing beside him exclaimed in surprise, where are you going? That person tried to hold him back, but was pushed away. He loudly said, it is dangerous to get close there. His mind was chaotic, but a clear decision emerged for humanity and for the honor of a hunter. He held the knife and quickly walked towards the Flame Emperor, secretly telling himself a hunter is the title for those who hunt monsters. He took strong steps silently, deciding no matter the cost. The Flame Emperor glanced in his direction. Someone loudly called out, this guy, calm down. He rushed towards the Flame Emperor and the fire. He reached out his hand, secretly making a decision that monster deserves to be eliminated. The people behind and the Flame Emperor watched him jump into the fire in astonishment. They quickly cried out, you are rushing into the fire. The flames devoured him. He screamed in agony. He thought in pain, it is too hot. The crowd stood far back, eyes wide with fear and disbelief as they watched him rush into the raging fire. In his mind, only one thought echoed it. Hurt so much he writhed in the flames, his body in agony, waves of heat relentlessly burning him. The Flame Emperor stood motionless, his eyes filled with astonishment. He thought resentfully, but this is the only way to kill this monster. The notification appeared, you have died. The notification continued to activate, you will return 24 hours ago. He once again woke up in his bed, the sound of the news report echoing, this is Babylon, News Live broadcast. He sat up in his small, trash-filled apartment. The computer still emitting sound. The Black Dragon Guild has organized an attack on the 40th floor. Gongja opened his status panel. It displayed, "You are currently an F-rank hunter." He secretly rejoiced. Great. The skill is still working normally. The notification appeared, "No penalty for using the skill." He scoffed quietly, "So being F-rank helps me avoid penalties." He were like two sides of a clock. He silently calculated, "It is currently impossible to kill the Flame Emperor. Even if I am lucky enough to kill him, he will also return 24 hours ago because he also possesses this skill." His eyes were fixed on the distant knife, its blade gleaming. He quietly thought, "So the only way for a low-level hunter like me to hunt him." He recalled the article about the Flame Emperor, a question almost everyone had heard. When did you first awaken? In an interview, he calmly sat on the sofa and said, "It was the summer when I was 21 years old. It has been 11 years now." The reporter praised him. "You remember it so clearly, your memory must be excellent." He took a sip of water, calmly saying, "No, it is just that the day of awakening happened to be my birthday, so I remember it." He looked at the knife in his hand and mentally calculated 11 years ago, June 7th. So from today, that is 50 days. Gongja pointed the knife at himself, thinking decisively, just 50 more deaths. He stabbed himself hard in the chest, firmly thinking, "I will return before he awakens." The notification appeared, "You have died." He woke up, his body tense, his breath ragged. The notification continued to display, "Returning 24 hours ago." He gasped, clutching the knife, muttering, "Great, now only 49 days left." He raised the knife and stabbed himself hard. The notification appeared, "You have died." He continued to use this method to commit suicide. The notification quickly appeared, "You have died." He stabbed the knife hard into his abdomen. His whole body trembled with extreme pain. He spat out a pool of blood. He writhed on the floor from the pain notifications continuously displayed. "Returned 24 hours ago. No penalty for using the skill." The status notification appeared, "You have died." His whole body was covered in blue veins. He placed his hand on his chest. The pain felt like it was tearing his body apart. He looked at the sharp knife in his hand, choking out 20,020 days. The notification continued to display, "You have died." He looked at the Flame Emperor's photo on the newspaper, muttering 543 days until the last time. He pointed the knife at himself excitedly, saying finally. Gongja stabbed himself hard in the chest and collapsed to the floor, quietly thinking, "One more day." The clock on the wall moved rhythmically, the sounds of the clock hands echoing steadily. Gongja lay sprawled on the bed, holding the knife in one hand, breathing heavily. He quickly sat up. He stared at the clock on the wall. Recalling the articles about the Flame Emperor, he thought excitedly, "I have done it." He clenched the knife in his hand. He leaned his head against the wall, breathing heavily, silently thinking, "I have returned to the time before the epic of the Fire Emperor began." Gongja mused, "I have died 30 more times than the original plan, 50 times. And that includes the times I killed myself." He recalled the moment he curled up in the corner of the room, enveloped by despair. He picked up the knife, the Flame Emperor's twisted smile appearing in his mind. He thought firmly, along with the times I occasionally stopped to rest. I have endured such hardship for all that time to prove that the epic of a devil like him is not eternal. Gongja resolutely stood up. He quickly dressed, gripped the knife, opened the door, and stepped outside. He pulled his hood up to cover his face, silently, thinking, "It is time to find my first prey." The clock on the wall struck exactly 11, he mused. 11 years ago, May 6th, 11 a.m. He walked to stand downstairs from an apartment complex. He hid himself outside the window. Inside the room, a figure was lying stubbornly on the bed. Inside, the alarm clock rang. "Good morning, beep, 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 beep." Yoon-Suha's eyes widened as he lay on the bed, groaning. He sat up, turned off the alarm, and mumbled, "My head keeps spinning, huh?" He spoke in unison. "I should not have drunk so much last night." He secretly thought to build a perfect plan. I repeated it 10 times. He stood up and got dressed. He thought to himself, there are no failures every morning at 9. He wakes up in the F-rank dormitory. Yoon-Suha took his weapon and grumbled, "It is time to work." "Damn it, life is like hell," he quickly dodged. The clock on the wall struck exactly 3. He thought to himself at 3 p.m. He hunts slimes on the second floor of the hunting zone. His staff pierced directly into the slime, causing liquid from its body to splatter. He took out its core, grumbling irritably. How boring just hunting slimes all day. He squeezed it tightly, then looked up at the sky and cursed. When will I get to live like the heavenly sword? He stood nearby, observing sarcastically. Thinking at 21 he was just an F-rank hunter, wishing for a change in his life. His face was red with frustration. He complained indignantly, "Can I not win the lottery? Or at least receive an S-rank skill?" A slime stealthily approached him. He thought to himself, usually his wishes come true. A week later, the slime sprang high. Its soft body expanded, then it charged straight towards him. The knife blade flashed in his hand, lightly cutting the slime into 2 pieces. "Slime goo splattered on the ground," he coldly said, "but unfortunately you do not deserve such luck anymore." He took the slime's blood and smeared it on his body and clothes. Time passed. The hour hand had changed. It displayed 5:31 p.m. He stepped into the teleportation circle, casually saying, "Take me to the 6th floor." He silently pondered. He gradually realized that by only hunting slimes, he could not improve, so he went to a hunting area that new hunters rarely visited. The system announced going to the 6th floor hunting zone. He quickly reached the hunting area. He thought coldly a place where he would be alone for 36 minutes. He stepped out of the bushes, blood dripping, wetting his shoes, saying fearfully, "Please excuse me." Gongja weakly called out Mr. Hunter Yoon Suha. He turned his head to look. He suspiciously said, his whole body covered in blood. He approached with difficulty, hesitantly saying, "Please help me. I was just attacked by a pack of wolves. Please give me a potion." He asked in panic, "What the hell have you touched monsters here already?" He trembled, begging, "Please give me a potion." He spat on the ground, annoyed that means today's hunt was useless. A potion. What, I cannot even complete today's mission. He roughly scratched his neck, grimacing and saying, "How much will you pay me?" His voice mixed with confusion. "Please excuse me." He used his staff to push him hard in the chest, making him stagger back. He arrogantly asked, "How much will you pay me for the potion?" He slightly stumbled potion, his voice full of arrogance. "My hunt today has been ruined, and I still have to give a valuable potion for free to a stranger I just met. Do you have no shame?" He casually held the potion. He quickly moved closer, urgently saying, "It is sold for 20 gold at the Alchemy Castle. I will buy it for 220 gold. Please give it to me." He indifferently said, "It seems you do not quite understand." Yunsuha used his staff to push An away coldly, asking, "You are on the verge of death, and only want to pay 2 gold. Is your life worth 2 gold? He frantically increased the price, so 40 gold. He scoffed and laughed. He grabbed his collar and lifted him up. Laughing, "Give me everything you have," he thought to himself. I knew this would happen. He found his wallet in his jacket pocket, fiercely saying, "Oh right, you want to give it to me, but your hands cannot be used. Do not worry, I will do it for you." He contemptuously thought that he was this kind of person. He took the wallet and threw him away loudly, saying, "Let us see." He emptied the money from the wallet, saying disappointedly, 1, 2, 3, only 60 gold, damn. Why are you so poor? Carry more money." He grabbed his head, he said in fear. "That is my entire fortune." He laughed loudly, humorously, saying, "Do not worry, I will spend the money wisely." The memory of him burning him to death the first time came back. At that time he also laughed loudly and calmly said, "Is that not how this world works?" He hesitantly said, "VV, what about the potion?" He summoned his weapon casually, saying, "I have thought it through." He tightly gripped the spear, calmly saying, "If I let you go, you will come back to take revenge on me." He froze. He continued, "I need to live without worries, but because you have seen my face." He thought to himself, "Worries?" He swung the spear towards him excitedly, shouting, "Why will you not die?" He quickly bent down, adjusting his posture. He decisively delivered a powerful kick to his lower body, determinedly thinking, "I will live without worrying." He knelt down after the attack, groaning, "What the hell?" He calmly pulled out the knife. He immediately swung the knife. The gleaming blade cut across his neck. His eyes widened, his mouth agape, spitting blood, his face filled with horror. Blood splattered on the ground. He stood there staring at his corpse, breathing heavily. He gripped the knife tightly with both hands, whispering to prevent 1 in a million chance that you might wake up when your life is hanging by a thread. He swung the knife forcefully, his voice deepening. "I will make sure there is nothing left of you." He stabbed him hard. Blood stained the ground. He stood there, breathing heavily. He whispered, "Yoon Suha." Gongja stood still, muttering to himself, "It does not matter if he killed me, but one thing bothered me." He continued, The reason you told me your name at that moment. The scene of him turning and walking away appeared in his mind, his voice like it was still echoing in his ears. My name is Yoon Suha. Goodbye. He gritted his teeth. His voice deepened. I realized that after 40 days, you damn scoundrel. He stomped hard on his spear, angrily saying, even though you are a cold-blooded killer, you pretended to be a knight in a sacred duel. He recalled his sins, roaring in anger. How dare you? Tears streamed down his cheeks. He shouted loudly, showing righteousness after killing so many innocent people. After venting his emotions, he quietly stood still. Suddenly, he heard a sound. He turned around and saw a pack of wolves. They looked at him warily, starting to growl threateningly. He gently said, You want to eat him, do not you? He walked past them calmly, saying, It is all yours. They quickly rushed to tear at the corpse. He casually walked away, leaving the scene of them fighting over their meal behind. He quickly moved to a raised mound of earth. Without hesitation, he began to dig. Beneath the earth, a small hole was revealed. Inside was a backpack and a few bottles of mineral water. He took off his blood-stained shirt, then threw it into the hole. Immediately, he changed into another shirt. He walked to the teleportation point. Giving the command to the first floor, he silently mused. Has everything ended? The tower reported arriving at the first floor. He successfully teleported to the first floor. After only a few steps, he encountered guards. He thought to himself, that is the guard legion. He looked straight ahead, trying not to attract the guards' attention. He glanced over, walking tensely. The soldier walked past him, yawning, completely oblivious to his presence. He continued on with relief, silently thinking, Oh, everything is over. The illuminated buildings created a peaceful scene in the dark night. He happily thought no one knows what just happened. The announcement from the TV echoed, The 10th floor hunting legion has failed once again. He affirmed, thinking no one. Gongja slammed the beer glass down on the table. The TV continued to report criticisms of the Heavenly Sword are growing louder regarding his refusal to hunt with the Legion despite being rank 1. He thought excitedly. The epic of the terrible Fire Emperor is no more, he eagerly called out to the manager. Another glass of beer, please. The waiter happily asked, Drinking so much today, your hunt must have gone well, huh? He smiled widely and said, Yes, very well, extremely good. The TV continued to blare. Although hunters from rank 7 to rank 2 all hunted on the 10th floor, many people still call it a useless ranking system. He let out a satisfied breath, a feeling of relaxation spreading. He took another large gulp of beer, gestured with his hand, and said, Open Hunter Status Panel. The status panel appeared, name Kim Gongja, rank F, skills 2 on 4. 1. 6 spirit body, S+, passive 2, regressors pocket, watch EX, passive 3, empty 4, empty. He wiped his mouth, then looked at it excitedly, saying, Ah, amazing. Look at those great skills. He thoughtfully looked at the skills, muttering, I do not have a combat skill. This is what they call human greed. He waved his hand to dismiss it and said, Kim Gongja, you are truly shameless if you do not want more skills. Think about what I can do with these skills. Immediately, he thought of lottery tickets, or the amount of gold he could earn. He mumbled to himself, I can win the lottery at the Merchant Association, or I can sell methods to the upper floors. Everything is going too smoothly. Gongja laughed loudly and said, Now, what should I do? Just then a man in a suit entered the bar. Everyone paid attention to him. Marcus stood at the door. He spoke milk. He said in a low voice, Please mix some vodka and sugar with hot milk. It would be better if it were honey instead of sugar. Marcus calmly walked to an empty seat. The waiter hesitated. Excuse me, sir, but I am not the one who prepares it. He silently mused. This old man is strange. He calmly replied, I will pay. Do not worry about that. He heard everyone whispering, Hey, is that really him? Why is he here? Marcus took off his hat and sat down. At this very moment, the TV's voice echoed again in these moments for the ethics of hunters. On the TV screen was an image from the interview. He solemnly stated, There are still many public opinions that we need to cooperate on. He was astonished, staring blankly at the screen. This man is currently the strongest hunter, he thought in surprise, so the Sword Emperor is here, and what is he doing? He recalled information about Marcus from his previous life. There was an article that caused a huge stir. Babylon Daily, the Sword Emperor has been missing for 22 days. This could be a great loss for the Hunter Association. He thought to himself, the Sword Emperor's real name is Marcus Callenberry. He has been missing since then. So by my time he was completely forgotten. until the Flame Emperor Yun Suha appeared. He made a name for himself and became a legend. He secretly looked at him and silently mused, he must be very strong now, huh? He took another sip of beer and speculated, so that means he definitely has an S-rank skill. It is probably not a bad skill like mine. Huh. Maybe it is an attack-type skill. He paused. A bold thought appeared in his mind. He whispered, wait with this skill. As long as I am killed by a hunter, I will be able to copy their skill. He stared at his back skeptically, thinking even if it is the #1 hunter in Korea. He sat like on the face of a giant clock surrounded by twisted chains binding them both, he thought firmly, and I can die many more times. He quickly took out his phone. He thought with determination, I can definitely do it. The waiter brought the drink. Marcus calmly enjoyed it on social media. Many people were discussing him. User 1 3 months ago. I heard he became a sugar daddy with hundreds of mansions in Europe. User 2 6 months ago. No one knows his true strength. User 3. 1 year ago, I heard he threw away all his assets and went into the tower. User 4. 2 months ago. It seems he has autism. He thought in confusion, what is this? His face wrinkled and crumpled. He helplessly thought, everyone weaves their own story. There is no useful information. He recalled the Flame Emperor's interviews and photos. He silently thought if he was half as arrogant as that Flame Emperor, that would be good. Suddenly he spoke. Shut up, do not make noise. He flinched. His heart skipped a beat. He mumbled from the beginning, he secretly looked at Marcus and thought in horror, he startled me. He continued to mumble, I know nothing about him alone. He helplessly shook his head, thinking in confusion. He probably is not really autistic, huh? Or maybe being too strong affected his personality. Suddenly, he was surprised to see a strange comment warning things you should not say in front of the Sword Emperor. That user explained, I saw this with my own eyes. If you do not want to die, do not say these things in front of the Sword Emperor. At that moment, a group of hunters approached him aggressively. Hey, old man, this is a public hunting ground, so you have to follow the rules here, okay? But why do we not talk in a more private place? That user continued to message a few days ago. A few high-rank hunters provoked him. Marcus did not pay too much attention to them. He calmly wiped his sword and casually said sounds ambiguous. I have never heard of it. The hunter loudly mocked him. Then maybe I need to replace your ears or just cut them off. He sarcastically said, looking at your personality, I bet that is why your descendants left you. His face darkened when he heard that. He swung his sword. The sharp blade tore him in half. That user warned, if you say that to the Sword Emperor, you will be killed immediately. I, the author of this warning, am from a large guild. You think I am just spreading rumors. His blood splattered. The two accomplices could only tremble in fear. At the sight, that user continued. I do not care if you believe it or not. I just want to tell you to understand and avoid this. He stared at his phone. At the end of the comment, that person emphasized warning anyway. If you do not want to die, do not foolishly mention the Sword Emperor's descendants in front of him. He silently read the comment, just one word, you can also die at any time. He silently read the comment, just one word, you can die at any time. At this moment, Marcus again talked to himself, his voice filled with annoyance. Quiet. I understand now, just be quiet for a bit. You're ruining my mood. He silently pondered, this is worth a try. He slammed 3 gold coins onto the table and said, thanks for the drink. Marcus put his hat back on, quickly left the pub, and the waiter called after him, have a good day. The entire pub fell silent. Everyone's eyes followed his departing figure. When they saw he was far away, people began to chat. A girl, relieved, said, he's finally gone. Her friend, curious, asked, is he senile? Was he talking to himself? Another person exclaimed, I thought he was going to stay here forever. He quickly stood up, paid, and said, thank you very much. Here's the money. The waiter cheerfully said, oh, thank you. Remember to visit again next time. He pushed the door open and left the pub. He stood on the street, silently, wondering, where are you? Now. Ranker number 1. He glanced at the shops on the street, quietly thinking, where did he go? He searched through the crowd and mused to himself, he just left, right by me, he certainly can't have gone far. He quickly spotted his figure. Excitedly, thinking found him. He decisively followed. Marcus, contemplating, he's the only one wearing that suit in Babylon City. It won't be hard to find him. He nervously watched him, wondering what skills does he have. He was so excited that he broke out in a sweat, speculating the Flame Emperor. He had an S-rank skill. What about him? The leader of the previous generation. Maybe it's even several times better than before. He smiled and joyfully thought it'll be mine soon. I'm so lucky. Suddenly a voice spoke. Marcus stopped. He said it must be around here. He was startled, his face filled with confusion, not understanding what was happening. He looked towards him, hid, and slowly said, "Finally, you've arrived, little friend." He held his breath anxiously, thinking he found me. Immediately, he continued, "If it's here, no one will know what's happening." Marcus stood still, staring intently at where he was hiding. He stepped out from behind the tree, hesitantly saying, "Excuse me, I have a request." Marcus burst out, laughing. He was startled and became worried by his attitude. Marcus coldly asked, "You have a request? Tell me, why should I listen to a request from a stalker? What do you want from this old man, friend?" He thought in surprise, he noticed me from back then. He clenched his fists, bewildered. Why don't I even have a weapon? He looked at the sword in Marcus's hand, silently thinking, he's even holding a sword. He wants to attack me. Sweat poured down his forehead. Thinking in panic, I haven't done anything other than follow him to make things easier. So why is he so cold? He said, "Your actions are quite good, but I thought a top assassin like you would be better than this." His face turned pale. He said, in fear, "Sorry." He thought in panic. Wait, why does he think that? He quickly backed away, silently, thinking, "Congratulations, Kim Gongja. You don't need to provoke his descendants to die by his hands anymore." He hesitantly said, "Sorry, but we're just going the same way." He frowned, his cold voice ringing out, "You don't need to lie anymore. You followed me all the way down this street to this spot. Don't try to fool me." He frantically waved his hands, trembling. "Sorry, but I was just curious." He tried to explain to him, "How could I be a top assassin? I'm just a normal person who got lost." Marcus's expression darkened. He drew his sword, its blade, reflecting his angry face. He shouted, "Shut up. I have some skills to determine that which is." Marcus's cold voice continued, "A skill that allows me to see the number of people they've killed." He was stunned. Immediately, memories of the Flame Emperor's death flooded his mind. He thought, that's right. Even though I had a good reason, a killer is still just a killer. His whole body was restless. He thought, I know the person I killed was a monster in the future, but I can't justify it. Does he see the number 1 above my head? Sweat poured down like rain. He quickly pleaded, "I understand. But Sword Emperor, please let me explain. I truly have a good reason for this number." Marcus slowly took off his hat. He firmly said, "I swear on my life." He said with hatred, disgusting. He opened his mouth, his entire body stiff. He adjusted his sword, his voice deepening. "A demon who has killed countless lives, like you dares to swear on his life." The sharp tip of the sword glided past, easily cutting the blades of grass. Marcus angrily said, "I may not live a clean life, but at least I'm not a cold-blooded person who treats human lives like grass like you." He explained, in horror. "How cold-blooded? I just killed one person." Marcus coldly pointed the sword. At him he angrily said, "Aren't you ashamed of these lies?" He asserted, "The number of people you've killed is not just 1, but 4. 91 above his head was the blood-red number, 4091. He stood frozen in place. He silently thought, I killed that bastard, Yoon Suha, the moment I decided to pick up the knife. The path ahead was destined to be stained with blood. His face was blank. He continued to think, and killing myself 40-90 times. No way. His face was blank. He continued to think, and killing myself 40-90 times. No way. He quickly turned away, thinking in terror. From his perspective, I'm a cold-blooded assassin who has killed 40-91 lives. This is not a problem about skill, copying anymore. He coldly said, "You don't want to answer." He ran for his life. He thought, "That sword emperor will kill me," Marcus calmly said. "Fine. Anyway, it doesn't matter much, I'll purge you." He thought in fear, as long as he meets me, he'll kill me. He quickly closed in on him, sword ready to strike. He swung his sword powerfully, saying in disgust, "You demon." He leaned back, the blade grazing his collar. He swung his sword decisively, the blade slicing through the wind, creating a powerful whistling sound. His whole body tilted. He felt the killing intent brush past his neck. Marcus said, "Seriously, you can block my sword strike as expected, of a top assassin." He thought, in annoyance, this deaf old man. While dodging the attack, he accidentally tripped over a rock, he exclaimed, in surprise. What? He fell flat on the ground, crying out in pain. He trembled as he got up, anxiously thinking no good. The first time was just luck. Marcus raised his sword, ready to stab. He thought in horror, "I can't dodge anymore." He squeezed his eyes shut, accepting his fate. Suddenly he said, in annoyance, "Shut up." Marcus continued, "You want to interrogate him? A demon." He secretly looked at him in surprise. He said, angrily, "Didn't I say I'd handle this? Stop interfering with everything I do." He looked at him in surprise, silently thinking, is this old man delusional, or is that part of his skill? The idea suddenly popped into his head. He thought, in fear. No way telepathy. He imagined him communicating with dozens, hundreds of people right now. He silently speculated there have been rumors that such a skill exists. He was drenched in sweat, thinking with worry, so he's sharing information about me with others, that there's a killer who's killed 4091. Here, images from wanted posters, and the scene of being hunted by a crowd appeared. He silently thought, then I'll become the target of a manhunt by the Hunter Association, and I'll be hunted by bounty hunters and high-level guilds, until he's executed on the first floor of the tower. His face became serious. He secretly made up his mind. I can't let that happen. He staggered to his feet, muttering to himself, I need to die. Right now. Before 24 hours pass, he quickly said, Hey, old man. He was still busy talking to someone else. He said, in annoyance, Don't bother me anymore. I've chosen carefully, even if you are my teacher. He provoked, How are your grandchildren? Hearing that, his face twitched, veins popping out, anger flaring in his eyes. He clenched his fists and continued to provoke. I heard you come from a wealthy family. In Northern Europe. You know what happens to families like that. His voice deepened. You know this outside world is dangerous. The expression on his face was extremely complex. He coldly said, If everyone finds out you're the Sword Emperor, what do you think will happen? He swung his sword decisively, the blade slicing through the wind, creating a sharp cut. His vision was distorted. He thought blankly, Has the moon always been inverted like that? Under the moonlight, his body remained standing while his head left his neck, flying far away along the sword's trajectory. He thought, in his eyes only, that magnificent cut remained. He silently sighed in admiration. Amazing, I couldn't even clearly see his sword strike. How can I reach a peak like him? His head fell to the ground. He thought with determination, I want to become someone like him. His body began to fall backward, he thought, so jealous. Looking at his calm, powerful figure, he yearned. I want to have a sword, strike like that too. A status notification appeared. You have died. He returned to that empty space again. A notification appeared. You will return 24 hours ago. All kinds of cards appeared. A notification popped up, creating skill cards. He joyfully thought, Finally, I have the skills of 2 top-ranked hunters. The cards began to spin. He excitedly said, All right, where's the gold card? He approached them, trying to examine them carefully. He mumbled, I'll just choose the same way as last time with the Flame Emperor. He was stunned, looking at the cards in surprise. Among the 6 cards, there were only silver and bronze types. He stood frozen, his voice filled with surprise and confusion. Why is there no gold card? Looking at the cards before him, he mumbled in horror, "Wait, you're telling me that?" He silently compared the Flame Emperor and the Sword Emperor, then thought in horror. Unlike the Flame Emperor, the Sword Emperor, Marcus's epic doesn't need to use an S-rank skill. He slumped to the ground, his voice full of collapse. No way. He gritted his teeth and mumbled, trying to reassure himself. There must be some extremely powerful skill among these silver cards, there must be. He quickly re-examined them. First were the 3 bronze cards, he thought in annoyance, 3 crappy cards. He glanced at the silver cards he silently pondered, and 4 silver cards. He propped himself up angrily, saying, "I don't need those crappy cards, my chances in these 4 cards." He recalled being chased by him because of the number of lives. He speculated the skill that counts. Lives must be in here too. He resolutely reached out, secretly praying, "I don't want that, God have mercy on me." He clutched a silver card and nervously said, "Come on, I won't be greedy anymore." The skill that made him successful. The clock hands began to move. Notifications appeared one after another. Skill copying completed. You will return 24 hours ago. He startled up, sweat pouring down his breath short and fast. He glanced towards his hand, grasping the card. He hurriedly sat up and commanded open Hunter status window behind him. A figure lay casually on the bed. He worriedly thought, did I get it? His main skill. The status board appeared too. Return from time passive 3 sword, Emperor A+, passive 4 empty. He calmly said, G. At least it's an A+ skill. It doesn't look like a life-counting skill. He leaned back on the bed, frustrated, but another passive, I wanted a martial arts skill or aura awakening. He silently thought anyway. It's an A+ skill. He raised his hand and happily said, open skill card. He looked at the word Sword Emperor A+, curiously saying, I don't even know what it does. Suddenly he heard a strange voice. Hey, what's that sound? He startled, looking towards the source of the sound in surprise. The phantom of a strange young man lay right next to his bed. The person waved his hand and continued. Old man, I said, before go to the yard, if you want to practice in the middle of the night, show some respect. He frowned, thinking in surprise, what the hell Sword Emperor has been muttering all this time? Because his master told him, before go outside. If you want to practice in the middle of the night, he lay with his back to Kim Gongja, monologuing to himself. Practice some basic movements. I will automatically appear if you progress further. I also told your wife not to wake me up, as Sword Emperor was talking to himself. He froze, cutting him off with a shout. Sorry, who are you? Kim? Gongja asked the person lying next to him. Sword Emperor, because of his question, suddenly stopped glancing back. Kim Gongja, being looked at, also froze. Looking back at him, he wondered, can you see me? He stammered, yes, Sword. Emperor asked further, and you can hear me speak. Kim Gongja propped himself up and replied softly, I suppose so, since you and I are talking about this. He immediately squatted down and cursed how strange, unbelievable. Sword Emperor stood up straight without delay, easily reached the ceiling. He pouted and complained, where the hell am I? This place is too small. Where is Marcus? Now he heard the somewhat familiar name and said, Marcus. Oh, the person you're referring to is the Sword Emperor, right? Sword Emperor still didn't stop. He pressed his face against the window looking out. However, that title is too grand for a beginner like him. But yes, I'm talking about someone with that name. Where is he? He must be around here somewhere. Kim Gongja was startled when Sword Emperor answered his question. A holy sword and a novice. He kept peeking back and forth, observing outside the window, complaining, I can't see anything through this tiny glass window. Suddenly a yellow board appeared before his eyes. What is this? Above it was a brief introduction to this suddenly appearing man, Sword Emperor rank A+. From another world, he cleared that world's tower up to the 99th floor, but failed at the 100th floor due to inability to give up his earthly desires. He became a spirit. He cannot physically affect anything in this world, but can communicate with the holder of this skill. He has incredible skill and experience, so ask him for training advice. Only the owner of this skill can sense his existence. Kim Gongja finished reading and wondered from another world. And he's a ghost. He spoke up and asked, Excuse me, are you Saint's guardian spirit, Sword Emperor? Turned his head and wondered, That's right. Kim Gongja suddenly said wearily, I'm sorry, but it seems I accidentally copied you. His face turned pale as he finished his sentence. The scene of Marcus and Sword Emperor standing back to back appeared in his mind. He heard it, and immediately gasped in horror, unable to believe it. Sword Emperor shouted in alarm. "Send your dad back to Sword Emperor right now!" He cried and asked loudly. "You said you can copy me with your skill, right? Then you must be able to cancel it too. You don't know how to refund it. Everything should be refunded immediately." Sword's actions also panicked him. Kim Gongja covered his ears and shouted, "I told you it's not something I can control, right?" He didn't just stand. He started hanging upside down and weeping. "Marcus, you foolish disciple. Your master is being kidnapped by a brat." I yelled at the Sword Emperor. "Can you stop crying so much? I'm suffering too." The Sword Emperor indeed stopped crying, switching to a mournful wail like a funeral dirge. This happened because my foolish disciple didn't respect his master's words. I told him not to repeat my mistakes. Kim Gongja, who had been covering his ears, suggested, "But can we please live in silence?" As soon as he heard me, he immediately snapped back live in a sewer pipe. "I'm already dead, damn it." Kim Gongja, out of patience, suggested again, "Okay, then please just die quietly. Can you?" The Sword Emperor, of course, refused to be quiet. He sat down and pointed, scolding, "I've never been disrespected like this. Oh, people, look at this scoundrel speaking ill of the dead. I've already died once, what more do you want?" Kim Gongja mused to himself that the old man was talking to thin air, I recalled, when Marcus said quiet, or when he suddenly looked up and complained, "Shut your mouth," or when Marcus soliloquized, "You're annoying me." Kim Gongja crossed his arms and rubbed his chin as if understanding the reason. After realizing, he frustratingly clutched his forehead. "I not only have to escape the Sword Emperor, but I also got this stupid skill." The Sword Emperor, not understanding, looked bewildered and asked, "Escape from what? Why do you have to do that from the outside? It doesn't look like it, but he's very good. As long as you don't mention his nephews," he added casually. Kim Gongja still hadn't lowered his hands from his face. "I know that already. I told the Sword Emperor. One of his skills is seeing the number of people others have killed." He continued, a detective's eyes, something like that. "But what's wrong with it? That's a useless skill, only for the purpose of knowing who is a killer and who isn't." Kim Gongja pointed to his own head and announced, 4091. I repeated before the Sword Emperor's astonished eyes, "The number on my head is 4091. Of course, he couldn't believe it, wrinkling his face and scoffing, "What the hell are you crazy? You're completely an amateur." The Sword Emperor emphasized. He stood up and analyzed an amateur among thousands of other amateurs. "You don't look like someone who knows how to do those things, so how the hell could someone like you kill 4091 other people?" Kim Gongja explained, "Because I didn't kill 4091 people. I only killed one person, and that person would later become the tyrant of the future. 4090 is the number of times I've killed myself," he added. Kim Gongja raised his hand. "Feeling I came back 11 years from the future to kill that guy. I have a skill that can randomly copy a skill from the person who killed me, and I got the return to the past skill from the guy who killed me." He continued, "So when I die, I'll go back 24 hours before I was killed. One could say I'm immortal. I want to go back and meet him, and he's still our rank 1, but you can't even kill him, because he has a resurrection skill. Yoon Soo Ha can do whatever he wants, because no matter how many times he dies, he'll come back to life. So I came back here before he got that skill." Kim Gongja emotionlessly held out both hands. The Sword Emperor stated his understanding, meaning, "You went back in time to get revenge on some guy. By committing suicide repeatedly and going back 11 years, he said, but the other person just kept bowing his head. After saying everything, the Sword Emperor also fell silent, not knowing what to say. He leaned closer to him. "What's your name?" I replied. "Kim Gongja." The Sword Emperor suddenly reached out. "Gongja, why did you take it? Why did you decide to steal his skill after you finished your revenge?" He invisibly touched me. Kim Gongja replied, "Because he's number 1. The fastest way to get stronger is to have the strongest person's skill." The Sword Emperor's eyes intently observed me. He was silent for a moment, then continued, "That's a pretty honest reason. Perhaps the skill card told you that no one can see my presence but you, therefore, I can't tell this to anyone else. Can I?" the Sword Emperor asked me. Kim Gongja tilted his head and rubbed his neck. "Yes," he floated, waving his hand. "Stand up." I also stood up naturally, wondering aloud. The Sword Emperor immediately ran back and forth, observing Kim Gongja from top to bottom. You have enough perseverance? I guess your body will also get better with some exercise. You also have enough ambition. After he finished looking, I recoiled, hugging my arms. The Sword Emperor rubbed his chin. I guess it's not too bad. He leaned forward and said, "Hey, Gongja, let me see how you hunt monsters." This is a different location as night falls. On the ground were motionless red creatures. Kim Gongja looked behind him. "Do you want me to kill all of them?" The Sword Emperor replied, "Yeah." Then I raised my hand. Kim Gongja brought down a single slash, striking the first one. But it wasn't dead. It lunged to attack its opponent. It quickly enveloped him. The Sword Emperor, seeing this, fell silent in thought. Surprisingly, Kim Gongja wasn't afraid, he just stared at it emotionlessly. Finally finding an opening, Kim Gongja swung his knife and lunged, breaking free from the grip. He spun the knife from left to right, completely dominating. "Yep," the Sword Emperor spoke. I know he saw Kim Gongja had completed the task, casually wiping something from his chin. Know what I hadn't finished wiping? I looked up and asked the Sword Emperor. He began to tell me when I was alive, I was known as the Sword Emperor. I was born in another world, and there was a rose tower there. I quickly climbed to the top. Kim Gongja recalled the control card that appeared earlier, thinking to himself, the Flame Emperor became a legend after passing the 40th floor. He said he had passed 99 floors. That's insane. The Sword Emperor pointed at himself. When you reach my level, you can assess abilities in an instant, the ability to become a hunter. That's why I want to see you hunt. Hearing that, I bowed my head and smiled sadly. Then you wasted my time, Kim Gongja said. Because I don't have innate combat talent, I explained softly. But I was immediately scolded by him. You have that ability, a truly infinite ability. Kim Gongja listened wide-eyed. I confusedly raised my hand and rubbed my neck. You just don't want to upset me, right? The Sword Emperor closed his eyes and analyzed. Of course you have no talent in martial arts. Your movements are too clumsy, your body is untrained, and you yourself don't feel your own aura. But you have a talent no one else has. You're not afraid to die. He recalled me lunging and slashing fearlessly. The Sword Emperor crossed his arms and continued. Normally, people will always protect themselves instinctively when fighting. But surprisingly, you don't have that instinct. It probably disappeared after you died more than 4,000 times. He analyzed this, surprising Kim Gongja. Is that also a talent, of course? The Sword Emperor replied. Talent is not something you are born with. He continued. Anyone can gain talent throughout their lives. The Sword Emperor remembered the people with their own talents in that other world. He gloomily revealed, and one of the hardest things to overcome is facing the fear of death. It's truly unbelievable. The Sword Emperor pointed at me. Kim Gongja seemed completely frozen. No one has ever told me anything like that. Not even myself, I recalled. Kim Gongja thought about the scene where the Flame Emperor touched his head. I couldn't stand being treated like an insect by the Flame Emperor. Or when Kim Gongja smiled despite his fear while committing suicide. I couldn't stand reaching the point where I had killed myself 4,000 times. I looked blankly at my hands, and death became my talent. Just then, the Sword Emperor interrupted again. Let me ask you something. He spoke. You've committed suicide many times, right? What did you think then? Kim Gongja didn't answer, but looked away. I thought it was beautiful. My voice came out in the moonlight night. Hearing that, he smiled again. Suddenly, the Sword Emperor threw his head back and burst into hearty laughter that echoed. He looked down. How interesting, extremely interesting. Good Kim Gongja was surprised by these words. You said your ability is copying, not stealing, right? The Sword Emperor asked me, but his tone was affirmative, and Marcus still has another me, the guardian spirit. He knows that he and I exist at the same time. The Sword Emperor floated closer. I want to see how you will become a great hunter. He happily pointed at himself. I will help you until you can stand firm, until you can stand above him. The Sword Emperor told Kim Gongja. I naturally smiled with satisfaction. Listening to the last sentence, he said, Let's clear this tower. The Sword Emperor shouted, Hey Gongja, why aren't you up yet? Kim Gongja still lay sprawled on the mattress, his back to him. 5 more minutes. Arthur I, the Sword Emperor, raised his voice. 5 minutes. He continued to yell, You're too slow. An old man like Marcus can pass the 10th floor, but a young man like you needs 5 more minutes. I annoyingly covered my ears with a pillow. The Sword Emperor yelled loudly. Huh! You're actually covering your ears! He had kept the same volume the whole time. He told Kim Gongja, I'll sing songs from my homeland until you wake up. You know I practiced sound martial arts when I was alive. My singing voice could make 30 heads explode in the first word. I gritted my teeth, grimacing, trembling all over. Yet the Sword Emperor kept shouting louder with each sentence. Do you know what time it is? Kim Gongja couldn't take it anymore. He sprang up and furiously yelled back, What time is it, so what? I whimpered, holding out my phone, and shouted, Damn it! It's only 4 a.m. You're completely crazy. He saw Kim Gongja was awake and immediately sighed. Even bugs start crawling at 4 a.m. Since you're weaker than bugs. You need to wake up earlier. As soon as I heard that I yelled, Since you're weaker than bugs, you need to wake up earlier. The Sword Emperor was about to nod in agreement with this statement. But before that, Kim Gongja bluntly exposed him. I'm wondering why the Sword Emperor can wake up at 4 a.m. every day. Turns out it's not because he's diligent, but because he keeps bothering him when he's sleeping. He was called out like that, and angrily retorted, You're damn right. I woke you up because I was bored. Happy now. Thanks to that, you can wake up early and start training. Be grateful for that. Now, get up and bow to me. The Sword Emperor's hand simultaneously pointed to the ground. I looked darkly and emotionlessly said, Bow my ass. I want to kill you so much. Arthur casually crossed his arms triumphantly. I'm already dead, so you can't kill me if you have a problem. Why don't you kill yourself? The Sword Emperor chuckled softly. That's right. You can't die. He seemed to discover Arthur lightly. I got it from now on. I'll call you Zombie Kim. Kim Gongja heard that and was annoyed. Fuck. So at dawn, I dragged myself out for a run. The Sword Emperor flew alongside, rambling, Hey zombie, let me remind you again, you really have no talent at all. I want to train you from the basics, but you're not at the level to do those things. Somehow you're even below the level to learn the basics. Just then, Kim Gongja thought to himself, It's been 4 days since I copied the Sword Emperor's skill from the Sword Emperor. I killed Yun Suha. Once again, from that moment, I remembered him bleeding and falling, and avoiding the Sword Emperor as much as possible. Kim Gongja's jacket had faint bloodstains, but he only focused on escaping. The Sword Emperor flew ahead mockingly in terms of potential. You're at the bottom of a black hole. Holy crap, that sounds cool. I'm jealous of that. Kim Gongja ran almost out of breath. Don't make fun of me, I'm talking while breathing heavily. I'm running. Kim Gongja mused. I have to follow a strict training regimen that this old spirit has set for me. He held out 3 fingers and counted. That's why you need a special curriculum. And to get a special curriculum, you have to pay high tuition. The Sword Emperor smiled down at me. Hey zombie, let's play a lottery. This is the guild, their official name is the Merchant Union. It seems the guild master is an Indian woman, a rank 3 hunter countess. She's the only one with a skill that allows people to trade with the outside world. Countess has the ability to trade with external economies with this skill, giving her an exclusive advantage in the economic tower. Moving to the next scene, the person at the reception desk happily greeted, Welcome to Sangryun. How may I help you? And it's also the only place in Babylon that sells lottery tickets. This is Countess's exclusive privilege. A hand handed him a lottery ticket. Kim Gongja smiled and said, I came to collect my winning lottery ticket. The receptionist still smiled. You've won the Sangryun Lucky Lottery. Congratulations. Congratulations. I chuckled softly twice. It's nothing. The Sword Emperor floated beside me and whispered in his ear, He's always curious. Do you know why they always wear those cat ears? Kim Gongja whispered. I heard the guild master is a cat lady. He continued. She loves cats so much that she makes everyone wear cat ears. I can definitely say she's a pervert. He asked me, Did you check the date, sir? You can't exchange a ticket you bought 2 years ago. This is the first thing I did after getting myself a guardian spirit. Kim Gongja thought to himself. He smiled falsely and replied to the receptionist, Oh, it's fine. I just bought it last week. Kim Gongja recalled the Sword Emperor taking him to buy a lottery ticket last time. Musing, the sword spirit said I needed some initial capital, so I needed to win the lottery at least once. He still smiled. Yes, I can check your ID card. Suddenly, the receptionist froze when looking at the lottery ticket. He opened his eyes in astonishment when he saw the prize money's value. Of course, right after a crowd of people would discuss the first prize. The Sword Emperor glanced back, drawing attention. Making money is easy, isn't it? The receptionist hastily announced, I will go confirm this number. Could you please wait a moment? I will call the manager out right now. Mr. Kim, Gongja rested his arm on the table. Okay, just take it easy. He stood next to me, looking out. Hey, zombie! What if you get robbed in an alley or something like that? Kim Gongja whispered before I came to this time. Yoon Soo-ha also used this skill to win a few lottery tickets. I learned a bit from that it's not something that can be hidden, even if you try. Then he turned his head, just as the guild manager walked out. If it's revealed one way or another, it's safest to make it public to everyone. If the winner is attacked, the most affected party will be the Sangryun Guild. Arthur Taylor bowed slightly, greeting Kim Gongja. Thank you for waiting. I'm the manager here. Arthur Taylor. After introducing himself, he looked up and told me I'm also known as the Safety Keeper, so feel free to call me by my alias. Kim Gongja also greeted back. I'm Gongja. That's a suitable nickname for this guild at the same time. I secretly calculated if he has an alias, he must also be ranked in the top 300. Arthur smiled twice, bidding farewell. People usually say that please come with me upstairs. Kim Gongja mused normally. A person of F class like me would never have the chance to talk to a ranker, but today is different because I'm a customer worth 5,000 gold. The Sword Emperor standing behind him seeing me, suddenly excited, put on an air. I feel you're easily impressed by others because you've never been treated that way. It seems you were also quite excited when I called you a talent last night. Kim Gongja, annoyed, muttered to himself, Can't you stop talking for a bit? You shouldn't praise everyone, so much look at me. He spoke. The Sword Emperor, brimming with pride, pointed at himself. Just believe that everyone in this world exists, just for you to overcome. I didn't even want to hear his thoughts. Are people who always think they're kings crazy? They're the kind of people I never want to be. Arthur noticed Kim Gongja's mood change and asked, Sir, is something wrong? I startled and exclaimed, Nothing, I'm just a little distracted. Arthur chuckled gently and explained, It's a good thing I saw you looked worried. I wondered if any staff treated you rudely before I arrived. Kim Gongja was touched, his eyes shining brightly like headlights, wondering, Is he an angel? The Sword Emperor looked at me so unpromising, too easygoing. Arthur led Kim Gongja to the place. This is the VIP room, and the door opened, light from inside shone brightly, pouring straight out. He continued, This is the prize you won, 53,000 gold. Arthur leaned over, revealing the amount. I looked overwhelmed. This amount of gold is equivalent to more than $5 million, where I'm from. Kim Gongja cautiously swallowed with this money. I remembered the scattered beer and wine bottles at home. He suggested you can take all of them or entrust them to Sangryun for safekeeping. By now, Kim Gongja was already motionless. With this pile of money, I thought to myself, I could live a comfortable and peaceful life forever. If that's my goal, then I've probably achieved it. Arthur asked for my opinion. What would you like to do as expected? Kim Gongja didn't answer. I was still lost in thought, but I've decided to clear this tower as a hunter, so money is just a small step. Kim Gongja recalled the scene of him and the Sword Emperor clinking hands in agreement in the forest at night, and when he received his own ability through the skill card. I've also seen a more beautiful color of gold than this pile of gold before. Kim Gongja mused to himself. I snapped out of my serious thoughts and said, I guess I'll ask Sangryun to keep it for me. He approved, an extremely correct decision. I always advise winners to do so. Arthur's eyes followed Kim Gongja, who had gone to the prize table. He continued, I also understand why they want to take that pile, but there are many bad people outside. I picked up a gold coin, turned around beaming, and I want to buy an honorary membership title for the Sangryun Guild. It will cost 5,000 gold coins to become an honorary member of second class. Right, I will pay. Kim Gongja told Arthur, hearing that he took out a notebook from his vest pocket. You're not a member of any guild yet, are you? Yeah, I replied. The Sword Emperor laughed, praising, You're smarter than I thought. He analyzed a guild is not simply a group of friends who hunt together. The biggest reason to join a guild is because the Sword Emperor continued, they want to be protected. You were smart. Many people like Kim Gongja unite into a group to protect themselves. I smiled meaningfully when I heard these praises. Kim Gongja thought to himself, there are protectors and hunters, but life is too wild if there are only those two types of people. I remembered. Yoon Soo-ha and Marcus were both exceptions in this world. Kim Gongja kept getting lost in his own thoughts. Can you explain how the Flame Emperor and the Sword Emperor killed me? Yoon Soo-ha held a fire staff in one hand. The other arrogantly gave the middle finger to everything. The Flame Emperor would never be bound by a guild, and he was proud of his freedom. He won the lottery twice, but he never paid a protection fee to anyone. Anyone who has reached such a rank always refuses all guilds to pursue their own goals. Kim Gongja knew this was the reason for Yoon Suha's deep-seated arrogance. That's why he was almost poisoned. I mused to myself, no need to worsen my relationship with big guilds. I won't be as foolish as the Flame Emperor. One more thing, Kim Gongja spoke. Yes, anything. Sir Arthur was still bowing and taking notes. I presented, I am currently living in a cheap rented house. Therefore, can you find me a better place to rest? He began to record the requests. And if any news agency asks about the winner, can you tell them it's an honorary member of the Sangryun Guild? Kim Gongja continued. Arthur heard the requests and suddenly became silent. He awkwardly wiped his sweat. You're too thoughtful, sir. The Sword Emperor, who was now floating beside Arthur, took the opportunity to tell me he must have thought you were a failure. He repeated, he must have thought you were a failure. I didn't rush to answer the Sword Emperor, but explained to Arthur, the world out there is too vast, so we always need thorough preparation. After saying that to him, Kim Gongja then whispered back to him, who just thought I was a failure. The Sword Emperor innocently wasn't even ashamed. Did I say that I don't remember? Arthur smiled gently, agreeing how wise, sir. I heard his answer and secretly cursed this damned spirit. The Sword Emperor flew over to Kim Gongja, patting his shoulder, showering him with praise. I think you've managed what you have quite perfectly. I even thought I'd have to change your diapers. Kim Gongja wasn't very appreciative. He whispered back, I'd hate you less if you stopped talking for a bit. He didn't pay much attention, glancing at the man. You look quite happy, the Sword Emperor remarked, seeing my contented expression. Kim Gongja sat on the edge of the table where the prize money was, replying, Of course it's all just beginning. I calculated 4,000 deaths and returning 4,000 days to the past power that I couldn't enjoy because I was focused on my revenge. Kim Gongja tossed a gold coin up and caught it. Now it's time to enjoy. The Sword Emperor flew beside Kim Gongja, asking him, Hey, Kim Zombie, I told you that tuition is very important in my class, didn't I? The Sword Emperor's muscular body leaned close to Kim Gongja. He reminded, with the money you just received, it's enough to pay tuition. What do you plan to do next? Kim Gongja replied with an uncertain voice, Probably hire a professional teacher. The Sword Emperor said in surprise, That person is standing right in front of you. Hearing that Kim Gongja's disdainful expression was clear, he thought to himself, how shameless. The Sword Emperor added that there are 2 ways to increase power. Then he began to explain. One is to use skill books to learn martial arts skills. After a pause, he continued. 2 is to use potions to increase physical abilities. Suddenly, the Sword Emperor flew in front of Kim Gongja and said, But at your level, even if you read skill books, you won't learn anything. Kim Gongja was startled. He could only stand rooted to the spot and listen. Then the Sword Emperor continued, So you only have to use potions. That's very good for you. Kim Gongja put his hand on his chest in a defensive posture and asked, So how do I get them? The Sword Emperor stroked his chin, his face showing a lot of thought. Then he replied, You can call it the Alchemy Castle, because most of the doctors and alchemists are there. He didn't forget to explain that potions are made by the best people. I know a shop you can go to. Kim Gongja pressed his thumb and index finger together, wondering, Are they expensive? The Sword Emperor replied in a firm voice, Of course they're expensive. Then he asked, How much do you want to know? The Sword Emperor leaned into Kim Gongja's ear and said something that made Kim Gongja's eyes widen and his mouth drop open as if struck by lightning. Kim Gongja hadn't even had time to stop the Sword Emperor before he flew away. He could only call out, Wait, wait! Kim Gongja had to chase after the Sword Emperor, running and nervously saying, All my assets are only enough for 4 potions. The Sword Emperor smiled confidently and replied, If you negotiate well, you can get 5 potions. He said, If you want to get stronger, just stay silent and follow me. Kim Gongja ran after him, so tired that he was drenched in sweat and out of breath. He could only stammer, Slow down a bit. Suddenly, Kim Gongja's head slammed into the Sword Emperor's sturdy back, making him cry out, Oh! Kim Gongja held one hand to his head, annoyed, questioning, Why did you stop so suddenly? But the Sword Emperor only replied in a low voice, Gongja hide. He still didn't turn around but continued. I forgot to tell you. But Kim Gongja surprisingly replied, huh. I startled hearing footsteps approaching from afar. The sound. The footsteps were getting closer as if heading towards them. The Sword Emperor hid nearby, looking at the man walking with a sword and whispered, This is the shop he frequents. Kim Gongja's expression was tense. He secretly blamed, Why didn't you say so sooner? Looking at the man getting closer, Kim Gongja thought to himself, I can't go straight. Marcus suddenly stopped. His cold blue eyes glanced to the left. But he didn't see the Sword Emperor in front of him, and he also didn't see Kim Gongja because I was shielded by a large dumpster. Marcus remained silent. Kim Gongja sat next to the dumpster, covering his mouth with both hands, trying not to make a sound. His heart pounded wildly from tension. He thought to himself, What should I do? It would be bad if I got caught here. Suddenly Marcus turned and walked away. Kim Gongja was motionless like a statue. Not yet recovering, he felt like his life was over. After a while, he sat up and said, There's nowhere to hide here except this dumpster. The Sword Emperor's voice couldn't help but sound worried. This is bad if he comes here, then? The Sword Emperor seemed to remember something and said in shock, Could he be planning to buy all the potions? He quickly chased after him, not forgetting to call out, Gongja, hurry, follow me. Kim. Gongja stood up in surprise and replied, Huh. A moment later, the Sword Emperor poked his head out from a secluded corner and exclaimed, Ah! He cried out in despair as he saw Marcus open the door and walk into the shop. No. The Sword Emperor worriedly asked, We're late. What should we do? The Sword Emperor's voice was full of regret. That's the best shop here. Kim Gongja just pouted, saying nothing. I thought to myself, it would be bad if I used the same shop as the Sword Emperor. Then I suddenly remembered something and thought, but Kim Gongja took out his phone and searched for the keyword hunter rankings. A list appeared on the screen. I looked and said, There's no shop here in the top 20. I continued, even in the top 100. Kim Gongja continued to look and concluded even the top 300. I said they're not here. The Sword Emperor was still full of regret, now even more confused, asking what's here, your luck. Kim Gongja only replied no, quite the opposite. Kim Gongja put his phone in his pocket, turned and walked away, smiling and adding, I don't think I have to spend as much money as you said. The Sword Emperor asked skeptically, What? Kim Gongja turned his head slightly, his face confident, and replied, We can get those potions much cheaper elsewhere. He explained further, I know a pretty good alchemist. The Sword Emperor followed Kim Gongja to a ruined, desolate area, unable to resist asking, Do you know you're going deep into the slums? Around them were tall, scarred young men and middle-aged men with unfriendly faces. Kim Gongja suddenly stopped, one foot on a piece of trash, the other on a puddle, making a splash. The Sword Emperor's face couldn't hide his disgust. He asked, Are there any good alchemists living in places like this? Kim Gongja calmly replied, That person is not just good. That person is a one-of-a-kind genius. The Sword Emperor clearly didn't believe him, saying, Stop lying. What genius lives in this place? Kim Gongja laughed and replied, Okay, then don't believe me. The dangerous-looking people in the slums stared at them and clicked their tongues. Kim Gongja noticed their gazes and secretly exclaimed, I guess they were trying to see if I had anything to steal, but they gave up when they saw me talking to myself. Then I wondered what would they say if they saw the amount of money I have in my pocket. The Sword Emperor flew behind me, calling, Hey, Kim Zombie. He skeptically asked, Do you really know how to get there? Suddenly, a female voice cried out, Please don't take my tools. A male voice aggressively replied, Do you know how many times you've asked for an extension? Kim Gongja suddenly said, Finally, we're in the right place. The male voice continued to yell, You've been half a year late on your payment. You need to pay your debt. The girl begged him, If you take my tools, I won't be able to make a living anymore. The man holding a blue potion in his hand, his face grim, replied, I don't care, even if I leave them, you won't be able to earn enough to pay off your debt. He threw the potion in his hand onto the cart, instructing his subordinates to take all her belongings. The girl grabbed his arm, pleading earnestly, Just 1 week. Please give me 1 more week. No, just 5 days. The man yelled. Last time you said 1 week, then 1 month, and then half a year. Seeing that they were about to pull away, the cart containing her belongings, the girl quickly grabbed the cart. She said, There are still potions here. I haven't finished. The man pulling the cart helplessly said, Oh my God, Why did I lend money to someone like you? He pushed the cart hard, causing the girl to fall to the ground, crying out. He didn't forget to remind her, I advise you to find another job. The two men from the loan shark left with the cart and her belongings, leaving the girl sitting on the ground watching them go. A passerby's voice spoke up. I knew this shop would go bankrupt. Soon the person added, the shop is small and the prices are expensive. Why is a power potion sold for 40 gold? Another passerby walking next to her also said, young people nowadays are so idle. Why don't they go to business school for a few days? Hearing that the girl sitting on the ground said, it's not expensive. I didn't even make any profit from it. She suddenly stood up loudly declaring, you won't find anywhere that sells quality and affordable potions like my place in this entire Tower of Babylon. You should be grateful that my shop is located in a place like this. But the passerby only said contemptuously, ha, look at her. She's delusional. The onlookers before dispersing didn't forget to leave a remark. Let's go. She probably thinks she's great, seeing that Alchemy awkwardly called out to them. Wait a moment. Alchemy looked flustered. She hastily said, does anyone want a special power potion? Everyone is lucky to be here. The contemptuous voice replied. I said we're not buying. The Sword Emperor pointed his index finger at the girl bowing in disappointment over there, turning to look at Kim Gongja. Hey, he asked with a disdainful expression. She's probably not the one-of-a-kind genius you mentioned, huh? But Kim Gongja calmly put his hands in his pockets, walking in that direction, and replied, what if it is her? The Sword Emperor couldn't hide his astonishment, exclaiming what he asked in an unbelievable tone. Are you blind? Kim Gongja walked up to Alchemy, who was crouching on the ground. Her appearance at this moment looked very sad. It sounded like a sobbing sound from Alchemy. Kim Gongja sat down in front of her and said, I'm sorry. Alchemy looked up at me with tear-filled eyes, only hearing me ask her, are you still open for business? Kim Gongja thought to himself, this person is definitely not crazy, nor a failure. He told her, if you're still open, I plan to order a few things. Maybe something just a little. This is the Guildmaster Alchemist. Who would have thought that this girl is the Guildmaster Alchemist? Yes, a 5th-ranked alchemist in the future, and will become the leader of the Alchemy Castle. Alchemy was surprised, her face still tear-stained, but she still smiled shyly and replied, oh yes, absolutely, I can do anything you need. She wiped her tears with one hand and adjusted her glasses with the other, saying, but it's expensive. How much did you say? Kim Gongja thought for a moment and replied, I'm not sure. Maybe around 2,000. Hearing that, Alchemy's mouth dropped open, stammering too. In his heart, Kim Gongja thought to himself, if I can connect with 1 or 2 rankers later. Alchemy seemed to not believe her own ears, stammering 20,000. How much? Kim Gongja just smiled secretly, asking they weren't even in the ranks of hunters before. Thinking of this, he secretly judged truly a golden egg-laying duck. Later, Kim Gongja asked why he pretended to be skeptical and asked another question. You don't want to take my order, do you? Kim Gongja secretly made a decision. I will become her #1 customer. Alchemy opened the door shyly, saying, it's a bit shabby, please bear with it. The door opened. Alchemy could only manage a forced smile, while Kim Gongja and the Sword Emperor, after looking at the scene inside, felt speechless. Most of the large and small items inside were placed haphazardly and messily. Alchemy held out a hand in a gesture of introduction and said, it's really very shabby. However, Kim Gongja and the Sword Emperor looked at it stunned, only able to utter a wow. The Sword Emperor changed to lying with his chin propped up, floating calmly on the ground, stating this place is too messy. While I lifted a large potion pot, Kim Gongja stepped on a piece of broken glass, startling him. He walked more carefully and lightly. At this moment, the Sword Emperor asked again, hey, do you really want to take the poisons? She made. Kim Gongja only replied with a sound. After sitting at the desk, I asked again, are you really paying me 20,000 gold? Kim Gongja sincerely replied, if you really don't trust me, can I pay you in advance? Hearing that, Alchemy quickly waved her hand in advance. You don't have to do that. She suddenly bowed slightly and said, actually, she hesitated for a moment, then continued, if possible, a small advance would be fine. In his heart, Kim Gongja secretly affirmed that she had broken down to the point where she couldn't display normal manners. He calmly said, take the amount you need from my savings account. I'll inform Sangryun before withdrawing. Alchemy was so surprised that she had to ask again. I can take the amount I need. Kim Gongja replied, of course, but keep the limit around 20,000 gold if possible. My money is not unlimited. Lakemi began to pick up a notebook and pen, preparing to take notes. She seriously asked, "So what kind of potion do you want to order?" As if suddenly remembering something, she exclaimed, "Ah." Then Alchemy said that if you want to hire me to concoct illegal potions, I will have to refuse. She said a little awkwardly, "As a rule, I won't make that kind of potion." Kim Gongja heard that and thought to himself, even though her shop's business is in trouble, she still has enough courage to refuse 1,000 gold coins. She looks like a mess, but she's definitely suitable to become a master alchemist. Thinking of this, Kim Gongja quickly waved his hand to reassure Alchemy. "You don't have to worry. That's not a forbidden potion." Hearing that, Arthur sighed. "Oh, what a relief," she asked attentively. "So what kind of potion exactly do you want to concoct?" The Sword Emperor nearby crossed his arms and interjected, "Well, it's fine. She doesn't seem very proficient, but I'll give you the formula." He reminded, "Listen carefully." He made a stern gesture and said, "I'll only explain it to you once." So the Sword Emperor spoke, and Kim Gongja repeated after him, "The first ingredient is the liver of a pig rabbit." Kim Gongja tried to repeat after him, not forgetting to mimic his mouth shape. "The next ingredient is the eye of a shadow cat, the skin of a giant desert worm." Finally, he ended with a sentence and the tail of a ground lizard. Alchemy wrote down every word. Then she carefully asked, "A total of 23 ingredients, right?" The Sword Emperor replied, "Yeah, those are for the ingredients. Now for how to concoct it." "It all depends on your skill, pharmacist." Kim Gongja also agreed with him. He said, "That's right." Alchemy said something without thinking that made the Sword Emperor's expression visibly surprised. "All of them will combine to create an effect that increases your reaction speed." She gave her own comment that's an extremely advanced formula. Then Alchemy explained further, "You created it by mixing all the ingredients together at once, instead of refining each one right." Hearing that, the Sword Emperor couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh, she's exactly right." Kim Gongja also agreed with him. He said, "That's right." Alchemy smiled delightedly and said, "Of course." She began to explain, "Normally, the skin of a giant desert worm would have a small amount of toxicity," she said very fluently. "One way to neutralize this toxic substance is to mix them with the liver of a pig rabbit." Finally, she didn't forget to say, "However, depending on how it's consumed, the effect will be vastly different if it has been refined." In Kim Gongja's heart, he excitedly screamed, "Yeah, the qualities of an expert have burst forth." Alchemy then said that there's another side effect that comes with it. She went on and on, basically the enhancement to your metabolism is, but Alchemy hadn't finished speaking when Kim Gongja stepped forward and interrupted her. He impatiently asked, "How long will it take you to prepare it?" Alchemy replied briefly, 4 days. She explained further, "Since I have enough money, I can create it in 4 days. Alchemy's demeanor couldn't hide her shyness. Her words were a bit rambling. Normally, I could do it faster, but now I need to buy back my equipment. But Kim Gongja's thoughts were very different. He recalled the scene of people crowding to buy potions before, where the shop assistant had to stand in front of the shop, gesturing with his hand and asking the crowd, those with prescriptions from an alchemist, "Please come forward." Then someone wondered, "Why are you standing in front of me? I've been waiting for a whole year." Another person complained, "A year. I've been waiting a year and a half." Thinking of this, Kim Gongja's face lit up. He laughed and said something that made Alchemy feel confused. 4 days is nothing. As they left, the Sword Emperor floated beside Kim Gongja and suddenly said skeptically, "Hey, I still don't agree with her." He continued, "Do you know how many people ramble about a good game while having trash skills?" He warned Kim Gongja, "Those are the people who will only talk later. Holy crap, we're just wasting money." But in response to those words was a question from Kim Gongja. "Where did you learn that formula?" The Sword Emperor replied, "It's a formula I came up with myself. It's the greatest potion ever invented after I drank all kinds of poisons myself." Kim Gongja smiled confidently and said she praised it as an advanced formula. His subsequent words made the Sword Emperor stunned. She recognized the value of that formula, so try to trust her. Even though she looks like a mess now, she will become the head of the alchemy castle in 10 years. Hearing that, the Sword Emperor pouted and turned his face away, saying nothing. After a moment of silence, he warned me again, "Remember my words, zombie. I bet she'll just take your money and run." Alchemy had 3 cardboard boxes stacked on top of each other. Her face was much brighter than the day before she walked and said, "I'm sorry I wanted to bring it to you sooner, she also explained, but it took more time than I thought when trying to combine them in different ratios. That was about 4 days later. Currently, they are at the residence provided by Sangryun Kim Gongja, and the Sword Emperor sat opposite each other at a tea table. I smiled and stood up to greet her, comforting her as if she hadn't said it would take 4 days, so that's fine. Alchemy handed the 3 cardboard boxes in her hands to Kim Gongja and said, "These are 3 boxes. Each box contains 30 vials." Kim Gongja took the boxes and said, "So it will last for about 30 days. I secretly praised it's 15 times more valuable than the shop recommended by the guardian spirit." Kim Gongja couldn't hide his confidence. "This is how I spend money." Hearing Kim Gongja say that alchemy made a sound, the Sword Emperor suddenly appeared from somewhere and asked skeptically, "Hey, are you secretly cursing me in your head?" Kim Gongja laughed it off and replied, "Yes." Alchemy suddenly said a little awkwardly, "It's quite embarrassing to ask this now." After a pause, she voiced her question, "But why did you place such an expensive order with an unknown pharmacist like me?" Alchemy recounted, "While I'm quite confident in my skills," she explained further, "just by looking at the provided formula, I think only 2 people in Babylon can do it." Her voice couldn't hide her sadness, "But everyone treats me like trash." Kim Gongja reached out and rubbed the back of his neck, thinking to himself, the reason he secretly remarked is because the pharmacist standing in front of him is one of the generation of geniuses. Then he wondered, but is that the only reason? Kim Gongja suddenly recalled the fire that happened before, when I said that this area had been sealed off, but there might be survivors inside, send a rescue team in there. He remembered that she was the one who ran to the scene faster than anyone else when the city was on fire, and the image of the paladin holding a fire extinguisher, telling her that she said she had something to do tonight. Maybe it was a date I had seen her with the Flame Emperor many times before. At that time, Alchemy worriedly said, "I don't like him." After a pause, she added, "There's something about him that scares me." Kim Gongja felt that she was someone not subdued by the Flame Emperor. According to him, her skill along with being kind didn't stop there, and even a good personality, Kim Gongja felt. Wouldn't it be a great loss not to become close with someone like her? Hearing that, I replied, "Because you look very kind." Alchemy asked in surprise. Kind Kim Gongja smiled and said, "I'm helping you because you seem very kind. I think you'll still succeed without me." I extended my hand to her saying, "I think good hunters like us need to succeed, so we can help others when we can," while I raised my hand to hold my other arm. Staring at Kim Gongja's outstretched hand, I added, "It's annoying to see insane psychopaths succeed. I want both of us to have the best things." In my heart, I thought it means all I want to say is, Kim Gongja thought to himself very, very much so. I don't think I can be more honest right now. Alchemy was silent for a long time. Then she said, "That's right." She extended her hand to shake Kim Gongja's hand. They seemed connected by some common ground. She said, "We need to succeed first to change this world together." Then Alchemy turned to leave before leaving. She didn't forget to say, "If you want to order anything else, just call me." After a pause, she added, "I will always prioritize your requests." Kim Gongja smiled happily, waving goodbye to her, and said, "I don't need anything else right now." Alchemy had left and the door had closed, but Kim Gongja still hadn't withdrawn his hand or turned away hastily suddenly. The Sword Emperor appeared from behind, leaning into my ear, teasing what good hunters like us. This made Kim Gongja's face darken. He said, "I know I said something embarrassing. Let's train." Time passed very quickly the next day. A glow appeared and a command echoed through the forest, "Move to the 3rd hunting floor." Kim Gongja observed the giant green monsters holding weapons and concluded that there were too many for me to handle. He had to ask for advice, so what should I do now? The Sword Emperor sat with his arms crossed and legs crossed, floating beside me, only replying first, "Drink a potion." Kim Gongja took a potion vial from his pocket and opened the cap. He tilted his head back and drank the entire potion decisively. Then he remarked, "It tastes quite ordinary." He licked his lips while describing it. "Has a slight lemon taste, and I think a bit of honey too." But then suddenly, a strange sensation appeared in his left chest, making him grit his teeth and break out in a sweat. The surrounding scene became distorted and warped. His whole body felt like it was shaking in Kim Gongja's heart. He secretly cried out, "What the hell is this?" Kim Gongja gasped, enduring the current terrible feeling he was suffering. His sweat poured down like rain. Kim Gongja could only groan. "A terrible, The Sword Emperor tilted his head, looking at my face, smiling and saying, "Oh, impressive. Her skill is not bad at all." Kim Gongja's mind was in chaos. "What is he saying? Don't repeat yourself. My head feels like it's about to explode." The Sword Emperor hung upside down to observe Kim Gongja smiling with amusement and asking, "How does it feel?" "It's like you can count every strand of hair on your head, right?" he said excitedly. "Even the feeling of sweating you'll feel very vivid." Kim Gongja heard the Sword Emperor's voice echoing in his ear. "That's the effect of the potion." But sometimes that voice seemed to echo from somewhere. That voice said that it will increase the rate at which you perceive reality. Kim Gongja heard the Sword Emperor ask him, "Don't you feel it?" He uttered each word with difficulty. "What are you talking about?" The Sword Emperor replied, "That thing swirling around your heart right now." Kim Gongja felt a terrifying power gathering in his left chest. His heart was beating so violently it felt like it was about to explode. He only heard the Sword Emperor say, "That's aura." The Sword Emperor still hung upside down, explaining further it exists within every hunter when they enter the tower. Most of them are unaware of it. Kim Gongja raised his trembling hands to cover his head. He no longer knew if the Sword Emperor was hanging upside down or not, but the Sword Emperor's voice still echoed in his ear. "How freely you can control this aura, that will be the deciding factor, he. Kim Gongja's mind at this moment was extremely chaotic and painful. He tried to hold his head tightly, enduring. Kim Gongja heard the Sword Emperor's voice again. "Normally, you would feel a flow in this state." The Sword Emperor smiled delightedly again and said, "But it will take a very long time." At this moment, Kim Gongja could no longer stand upright. He hunched over as if about to collapse. A giant shadow of a monster was approaching him from behind the sword. Emperor explained further, "If you lack talent, at least you need to train hard." When the giant monster raised its fangs and claws to attack Kim Gongja, the Sword Emperor told him to run Kim Zombie. He even teased, "If you don't want to get rammed." The fierce goblin rushed behind Kim Gongja. He turned around. The Sword Emperor's voice urged, "All right, quickly, release your aura, people, like you need to train through practical experience." Kim Gongja's face was pale sweat pouring down. "Damn you." As I ran away, the Sword Emperor's illusion appeared next to me, sneering and mocking me. "You're truly a failure. You can't even use aura." He smiled cunningly and provocatively. "Does it hurt if you don't like it? You can just end your own life. That's right, if you do that, the number on your head will increase again, huh?" Kim Gongja turned to look at him. His face suddenly darkened. He continued, "I bet that old man will take good care of you soon." The goblin in Gongja's eyes was roaring wildly. His vision was affected by the potion, making him a little dizzy. It roared continuously, then slowly raised the log high. The goblin was attacking at a relatively slow speed in Kim Gongja's field of vision. It slammed the log down hard, and luckily, I dodged it. Gongja suddenly felt it was too slow. So this is the effect of the potion, but I ran with all my might while thinking, even if I can see the attack, my body isn't strong enough to fight back. As Kim Gongja ran frantically, the Sword Emperor's illusion reappeared behind him, telling him, "You can still dodge the attack. Don't give up." He gave the protagonist some more information. Orcs are low-level pack creatures, and their attacks are quite simple. It will be very easy for you to see through their attacks. You just need to focus on the aura in your calves, Kim Gongja muttered, "as if it's as easy as you say." My legs gradually lost strength, thinking I could dodge their attacks if I tried to run legs. "Please move." I gritted my teeth, pushing the aura within myself. My heart suddenly pounded hard once. The aura immediately flowed to my left leg. Kim Gongja's leg was re-energized by the aura, exploding with energy, springing up to avoid the monster's downward strike. I continued to run. I dodged it. The Sword Emperor, seeing the unstable situation quickly, whispered in my ear, "It's harder than I thought." He seemed to be sitting on a fountain of aura energy in his heart, explaining, "That's because you haven't let aura flow throughout your body. Imagine your body as a road, and every part is a branch of that road. You need to recreate that road to use aura properly," while Kim Gongja seemed to be running on monstrous hands that wanted to drag him down. The Sword Emperor instructed, "You can feel aura thanks to the potion's effect, something you normally can't see." The orc swung its weapon, intending to continue attacking him. I annoyingly thought, not wanting to admit it, but she really does have that ability. The orc struck a blow that cratered the ground at this point. Kim Gongja stopped running. He went wild, screaming, his eyes turning bloodshot. The protagonist's aura suddenly surged. He turned to look directly at the goblin, asking himself, what will happen? Every time I tried to recreate that path, the Sword Emperor was observing me. I tried again and failed, but he was indeed right. Kim Gongja used his hand to press down on his chest, trying to release aura flow. Aura. An abandoned road covered with weeds. It's a fitting metaphor for my current state. I narrated. The orc swung its log at me. Kim Gongja retreated, dodging the attack. I wondered, but what if I can overcome this? What will happen? He immediately recalled a memory of Gongja's battle. His head had been cut off by the old man Marcus, and he couldn't think of what to do. That's right. The image of that man appeared. He continued that skill he used to cut your head off at that time. Kim Gongja suddenly thought of something, the sword path at that time. The Sword Emperor said that old man still has a long way to go, but compared to you, I guess. I don't need to say it, do I, Kim Zombie? I hesitated, secretly making a decision. The goblin attacked continuously, preventing Gongja from hesitating any longer. Kim Gongja looked up, seemingly having made a decision. He bravely turned around to face the orcs. The Sword Emperor was curious. What did you see at that time? Kim Gongja knelt on one knee. The aura in his left leg suddenly radiated powerfully, seemingly ready for battle. The Sword Emperor saw his intention and praised creative. Kim Gongja knelt on one knee. The aura in his left leg suddenly radiated powerfully, seemingly ready for battle. The Sword Emperor saw his intention and praised creative. He quickly pulled out his knife. He jumped up and lunged towards the goblin standing there, stunned. In the goblin's eyes was Kim Gongja's determined face, holding the knife, rushing towards him. He flew up and stabbed straight into the goblin's chest, making it lose balance and slowly fall backward. At that moment, the Sword Emperor above reminded him, don't let your guard down. Orcs have very thick skin. Focus your aura onto the knife. Oh, I guess that might be a bit difficult for you. The orc, having taken the full attack, roared in pain while I was still digging the knife deep into its chest. The Sword Emperor said, concentrate all your aura at the tip of your sword. I gritted my teeth and cursed. Damn it. The sword covered in aura gradually pierced through the goblin's chest. I furiously yelled, die. The aura suddenly glowed. Aura radiated from the sword, seemingly constricting the orc, preventing it from resisting. Kim Gongja pulled out the sword. Its green blood gushed out like a waterfall. I decisively stabbed it once more in the goblin's neck, making it lie neatly on the ground. When he confirmed that the orc was no longer moving, the Sword Emperor asked him, does it hurt? It must hurt. Right. Kim Gongja collapsed after defeating the goblin. The Sword Emperor hadn't heard the answer yet, but he said it must hurt. You didn't clear the aura flow properly, but anyway, you managed to activate aura. It definitely hurts like hell, especially with a weak body like yours. You used your whole body to catch the orc's movement. I looked very worn out trying to open my mouth, damn you. The Sword Emperor smiled contentedly, then praised, but you finished it and were able to condense aura into one point. That's good news. I commend you. A hunter must use their head in every battle. Kim Gongja was in so much pain that he hung his head and cried out, something's wrong, it's exploding from inside. He leaned down and asked, you feel like you're in so much pain, you just want to die and come back to life, right? Kim Gongja, exhausted and annoyed, replied, are you blind? The Sword Emperor calmly said, then you just need to die. I felt confused. Then the Sword Emperor continued, if you didn't have this skill, I wouldn't have suggested this teaching method. That old man Marcus always meditates after taking potions. He wouldn't dare to use his body recklessly, like you. Kim Gongja looked up full of questions. What do you mean? He shrugged his face, teasing and mocking. But you can just die and come back. It's easy, right? No matter how I train you, you can still come back. I'm really jealous. Hey, Kim Zombie, because your death count will increase if you commit suicide. Kim Gongja was sitting dazedly when a large shadow appeared behind him. The Sword Emperor said, then, let the monster behind you take care of the rest. An orc came out of nowhere. I hadn't even fully recovered yet. He smiled contentedly because his subordinate had reached the KPI. You were able to use aura on your first try. At this rate, I think about 100 more times should be enough. Each step will be like a journey. This is the first time. The goblin immediately slammed the log straight into Kim Gongja's head, making him unable to dodge the sword. Emperor loudly announced, "First time, let's go." Everything in Kim Gongja's eyes gradually darkened. The system appeared, reporting, "You have died." He suddenly found himself in another space. He tried to get up, clutching his head and crying out, "Damn it, my head hurts so much." He next to Kim Gongja surprisingly asked, "What is this?" I turned to see him and asked myself, "You're here too." I was also wondering if he would come back with me. I stood up and explained, "This is where I prepare to return after dying. I'll call it the Outer Realm for now." The Sword Emperor exclaimed, "So cool." Kim Gongja pointed towards the system's light after dying. "You heard it too. I will return 24 hours before I was just killed by the Flame Emperor and the Sword Emperor as well." The system displayed the information skill activation conditions met. I was quite bewildered. A skill will also be copied. The system screen showed 2 cards and stated that the orc's skill would be copied. Both of them were looking at it together, seeing the system display that they were stunned. Then Kim Gongja yelled out in fright, "Monsters have skills too." The Sword Emperor was equally shocked. "What the hell this is? Blatant hacking." The system continued to display, "Please choose a skill card." Both of them simultaneously shouted, "I want this skill too." The system appeared with an irresistible invitation, "Please select a skill card." The Sword Emperor saw this scene and furiously yelled, "What monster is overseeing this tower? Why give this divine skill to a failure like this, instead of a great hunter like me?" Kim Gongja stood with his arms crossed, looking extremely smug. He clutched his head, doubting existence. This will shatter a meta hunter. He looked up at the system, still quite surprised, a monster's skill. He reached out and grabbed any card, then said, "I'll just pick anything." The Sword Emperor flicked my hand to calm me. Wait, you're going to choose that?" I calmly replied, "What about it? There's nothing wrong with what I chose." He gave his opinion. "Why don't you choose the best one when you have the chance?" 2 skill cards fluttered, waiting for him to choose. Kim Gongja replied, "But I have no way of knowing which card is better. All the monster cards look exactly the same. It's all about luck." The Sword Emperor asked again, "You mean you don't know which skill is better?" I started to get annoyed. "Be serious for a bit, don't you understand what I'm saying? The colors of these cards are all the same, and I only see their backs. So how the hell would I know which card is better?" The Sword Emperor said bluntly, "Even though I can see them." Kim Gongja hadn't processed it yet, so he repeated clearly, "I can see them." Immediately, the front of the card, I was stunned. The position. The cards always moved with their backs facing me. It remained the same. Even when I tilted my head, he looked at the 2 hovering cards and asked again, "So you can read the content of these skill cards?" Suddenly, Kim Gongja realized something, but the guardian spirit can fly around freely. That's why he can see the other side of the skill card. He flew towards the front of the card. "Of course I can see them. Don't you believe my eyes? I gained extremely strong vision when I was a child. Later, when I was a little older, I still had keen eyes." He hadn't finished speaking when Kim Gongja suddenly excitedly yelled. The Sword Emperor shrieked in alarm. "Are you crazy? Why are you suddenly screaming so loud?" I excitedly discussed, "Just tell me what those skills are." He rubbed his chin, accepting, "All right, I'll only say it once, so listen carefully." The Sword Emperor began to read the skill of each card. "Nature gives us a place called home, but also brings us difficulties and challenges. In that harsh world, the orc race has enhanced their reproductive capabilities and will not lose to Mother Nature. 1 orc dies. Don't worry somewhere else you can't see. There will be 9 others. This is the reproductive blessing ability, rank F. A note is that you will feel hot all year round." Card 2. We always add chweek to the end of a sentence. Chweek, we don't know why we do it anymore. It sounds very stylish, but you should also start saying chweek chwick, so you will never escape the joy of saying chick, that is immortality. That is the chweek chwick skill card, rank F. However, chweek chwick hearing this, I immediately became stiff. The Sword Emperor warned me, "See if I didn't stop you, you would have chosen the damn chweek chwick. Now Gongja, don't you think that, because you were born human, you deserve to have the power of an orc?" Kim Gongja stated bluntly, "You just spouted a bunch of garbage." I secretly cursed to myself. Both cards are trash, but if I picked chweek chwick, the Sword Emperor interrupted my thoughts. "Hey, I think your words and thoughts are messy." But I stubbornly insisted anyway. I still think I'm right. Chweek chwick is better than reproductive blessing. He immediately lost control of his words. No fuck, wait, stop and think a little more. The Sword Emperor tried to persuade this reckless one. But I was one step faster, reaching for the Chwick card, and sarcastically said, I think you think like me, he asked in horror. What did you say? Then Kim Gongja quickly grabbed that card and rushed straight to the system screen. The system confirmed. Successful selection, copying skill. The Sword Emperor screamed, reaching out to pull back, but failed. No, he yelled as he saw the system teleport him to another place and excitedly cheered, yes. Kim Gongja woke up on a bed. The system reported you are now an F-rank hunter. The system reminded him there is a penalty for using skills. I excitedly exclaimed, perfect. I smiled, happily. Great Sangryun is the best. Resting in a place like this fills my mind and body with energy. The Sword Emperor on the side was green with envy, unable to sit still. Damn it, I thought I was dead. Kim Gongja reassured him. Who should choose reproductive blessing? Stop being angry and let's go hunting. He reached out to open the hunter status window. It immediately displayed all his information. Name, Kim Gongja, rank, F, skill, 441, I want to be friend, S+, passive 2. Resurrector's Wind Clock, S, passive 3. Sword Emperor, A+, passive, Chwick, F, passive. He looked and commented to himself, all right, I don't see any problem. The Sword Emperor immediately thought of every plan to make him turn back Gongja. I think it's quite difficult. I asked again what he patiently explained. I think you should practice by sitting still, like meditating. It hurts like hell. But Kim Gongja didn't care, and walked to the hunter's gate. The Sword Emperor tried to persuade him, make everything easier by meditating in the lotus position. I will make you control aura within half a year. He stood in front of the gate, looking very excited, to the 3rd floor. Kim Gongja was teleported to the 3rd hunting floor while he lost all patience and yelled, fuck, you're not listening to me. He enjoyed the drink again, delicious. Kim Gongja approached an orc, pulled out his knife and asked, hey, Sword Emperor, do you know he was happy thinking I was about to turn back? What you want to learn? The lotus pose. He skillfully rotated the knife, and aura was immediately transferred to it. You call me a zombie when you're on top and call me Gongja when you're on the bottom, he said defiantly. And soon you'll have to call me Gongja. Kim Gongja unhesitatingly charged at the goblin. Hearing that, it surprisingly cried out Guruk. Then, as expected, it went wild and attacked him, and the orc's movements in his eyes were very slow, thanks to the effect of his playing with drugs. As expected, it moved quite slowly. It swung its stick, intending to strike. While activating the skill, I suddenly cried out, Chwick, and the orc immediately stopped. It was confused, but still replied, Chwick. Kim Gongja also replied, Chwick. The orc seemed to understand something. Its eyes twinkled. Chwick? Then I suddenly turned around, grabbed my knife, and lunged straight at it. Before the orc could react, it was slashed across the neck. It cried out something like a last word, Chui. Then its neck gushed blood, and it slowly fell. When that orc was lying sprawled on the ground, Kim Gongja breathed a sigh of relief as if he had just accomplished a great feat. The Sword Emperor pointed and cursed. Damn it, you're a cheater. You knew this would happen. Are you happy deceiving an innocent orc like that? Are you very happy? Why don't you put yourself in the orc's position at that time and see how it felt? I didn't care and put my knife away. The Sword Emperor grew even angrier, shouting, innocent orcs in this world will be tormented by cunning people like you. Kim Gongja turned to him, smiling arrogantly as if provoking him. The Sword Emperor was even more enraged by me. Fuck, I'm going crazy. Oh, Tower, why did you give this cheating skill to this bastard? I quickly stuffed words into the Sword Emperor's mouth, saying, don't complain, just follow me. Then determined, we need to clear this 4th floor. A monster sat smugly stroking its beard, looking down and making a Gorok sound. That is the 5th floor boss monster, the Goblin King. He sat on his throne, chin in hand, looking very arrogant, glaring at Kim Gongja. I stood before the boss, closing my eyes. When I opened my eyes, it was also the moment the skill activated a powerful aura radiated from my body. Skill name. I jumped up and made a similar sound to him, Gorok. High Society rank F. The Goblin King was very surprised. Gorok, how can there be someone else besides me? Kim Gongja immediately swung his knife, attacking. He was stabbed in the neck by me while still in shock, saying perfectly the language of a king. The Goblin King fell from his throne, green blood gushing from his neck like a waterfall. I pulled out the knife, stood up, and admitted you're the strongest monster I've faced all week, and said farewell to him. Rest in peace, my esteemed opponent. The Sword Emperor on the side, seeing this Hollywood scene, cried out, "How ridiculous." He sat cleaning his ear, looking contemptuous. How can you be so eloquent for just killing that tiny monster? Kim Gongja surfaced with a straight face. What I started to boast, I killed it for only 6 su. You can't let me be a little eloquent explanation. Corner 1, su equals 1 life. The Sword Emperor poked me. I'm just telling the truth. Anyway, this isn't some glorious battle. I put my knife away. My eyes seem to have been hit where it hurts. It's then quickly changed the subject. Look at this. I found the power of this skill for only 5 su. The evaluation board was summoned by me, High Society Rank F effect. Goblin Lord has failed to grasp that goblin culture is too simple. All words end with trick, so the Goblin Lord came and replaced chweek with goruk. That is the culture of a king. However, that caused a riot in the Goblin Kingdom. Unexpectedly, the goblins I stuffed words into my own mouth. The system. Unexpectedly, the goblins cared about these issues. What's the difference between chweek and goruk? The Sword Emperor crossed his arms, looking unconvinced. That's why they're just goblins, actually. Humans are no different. I turned off the evaluation board and looked at him, asking again what? The Sword Emperor quickly denied nothing. I was just talking to myself. I stood there, confused. What does that mean? The system suddenly appeared behind me. Your existence has been recognized, making both me and the Sword Emperor surprised and attracted. The system reported Hunter Gongja has leveled up. Aura appeared as a circle under his feet and radiated around him. Kim Gongja raised his hand to feel it. He mumbled something finally. Systems acknowledged you. Your skill quantity has increased. You have been promoted. Perhaps you've been waiting for this moment, finally. The system sent you well, wishes luck will smile upon you. He raised his head, smiling contentedly. The Sword King curiously asked, was that fire or blood just now? So confusing. Kim Gongja retorted, arms akimbo, that's just a promotion effect, right? He immediately denied. No, it's not just to make you look cooler. That's an omen, he said in surprise, an omen. Then he explained more clearly, the shape of your aura when you're promoted will have effects that serve as omens of your aura's form. For example, the Fire King you killed, I bet his aura was fire. Kim Gongja recalled his technique's fire is how. The Sword King added the shape of one's aura usually manifests in life or death situations, and it's not a pleasant memory. He stroked his chin and continued, it also depends on the specific life or death circumstance it exists as a kind of subconscious form. The Sword King speculated, looking at just now. I guess it's either fire or blood. Kim Gongja then asked curiously, so what's your aura's form? Sword King. He replied, memories of the moon in my childhood flooded back. It was said that when that old man was young, he got lost in the mountains. He didn't want to die, so he climbed to the top of the mountain. While admiring the beauty of the moonlight, he said the moonlight beautifully cleared the sky. The moon doesn't shine by its own power, but borrows light from the sun. Life, as long as you accept it, is beautiful. Then the Sword King declared, I want to shine by embracing the sunlight, like the moon. He thought that when he was only 12 years old and he cherished that moment until now. Kim Gongja was stunned by how prematurely wise he was. 12 years old, the Sword King truly isn't an ordinary person. He clapped, congratulating anyway. We've finally cleared the 5th floor. Let's go up to the 6th floor. He casually asked about that. Can't we just raid the 10th floor directly? The Sword King was immediately shocked. What he retorted, you think you're good enough, rookie? Kim Gongja replied, I promise you I'm not. The Sword King seriously warned, do you know how many seasoned hunters have died on the 10th floor? He held up 2 fingers and challenged, if I can't clear the 10th floor in 2, I promise to call you. Master the sword? King was confused. You're saying you can clear the 10th floor with just 1 life. He couldn't help but disdain. You lost 6 lives just to kill 1 goblin lord, and now you want to clear the 10th floor with only 2 lives. It seems you're not aware of your current position, does it? It's not as easy as you think. He cut him off. However, I have one condition. You have to tell me what skills the 10th floor boss has. The Sword King crossed his arms, looking disdainful, but his expression didn't change. Kim Gongja continued. Furthermore, his face suddenly looked more serious than ever. If I win, you have to call me Gongja-nim as politely as possible. What's wrong? Are you scared you can back out if you want? This made the Sword King's face twist. He showed his attitude with just a few skills and a bit of a hack. You think you're an emperor. But a second later, his competitive spirit flared up. I bet Kim Gongja prepare to serve your master for the rest of your life. You won't be able to clear the 10th floor. That's right, you can't die. Call me master for life. Kim Gongja wasn't to be outdone. You prepare to call me Kim Gong Nim properly. Then the two of them looked at each other and laughed heartily. Outsiders looking in would only see him laughing alone and couldn't help but judge he seems to be crazy. A moment later, at the gate of the 10th floor, he was stopped by a guard. You can't. Kim Gongja asked why not the Sword King stood beside him watching. The guard shook his head, saying, You want to conquer the boss alone. Hunting alone is just dying in vain. Haven't you seen the news? The Black Dragon Guild advanced with 34 members and still failed. Kim Gongja was still stubborn. So what, isn't it a rule of the Hunter Association that all hunters are allowed to attack the tower? The soldier sincerely shared, I'm sorry, but I have to record all hunters who raid the tower. My boss checks the ledger at any time. How can I heartlessly let a fool like you commit suicide? Please reconsider. The Sword King felt something was off. What, there's no such thing as a World Hunter Association? He thought, what should I do now? The Sword King impatiently urged, no need to talk much to this guy. You just charge straight into the 10th floor. Kim Gongja hit him, and let's go. Kim Gongja became calm, lowered his voice, and called manager, then took the guard's hand and persuaded, I know you're thinking of me and what you say is very true. Kim Gongja's eyes sparkled, acting perfectly. Actually, I really want to commit suicide. The guard was very surprised. Suicide. The Sword King on the side was even more surprised. He began his act 1 year ago. My wife passed away a while ago. Doctors diagnosed me with terminal cancer. They said I had at most 6 months left, but I truly cannot live without my life. Partner. Kim. Gongja placed his hand on his chest. But after all, no matter how weak I am, I'm still a hunter. Instead of spending the rest of my life in a hospital bed, I truly want to dedicate my last strength to the nation. The soldier was moved to tears after hearing this. What a touching story. Kim Gongja even gave the soldier a pouch of money. This is the money I saved for my treatment. The soldier was conflicted. I can't accept this money, but he was resolute. People come and go like dust. I don't want to leave anything behind in this mortal world. Please, manager, please don't record my name as ever having been here. This is my last wish as a hunter. The soldier just accepted. I understand, you just go. I will act as if I saw nothing. The Sword King was also drawn into the act. So touching are you two starring in a romance drama. The 10th floor gate was opened by the soldier. The soldier watched his back as he stepped inside. The Sword King still followed closely, along with Kim Gongja's anticipation. What awaits me here? 10th floor. The 10th floor before them was an abandoned mansion looking quite eerie. He and the Sword King gradually advanced into the mansion's area. This was originally where Yoon Suha would have cleared. He didn't hesitate to open the door, telling himself, I will write a legend even better than you, Fire King. The door slowly opened, sunlight streaming into the dark mansion looking more spectacular than ever. Peculiar dolls appeared as if they had been waiting for them for a long time. The eyes of the two lead dolls lit up, and they laughed eerily as soon as they saw him. A fire flared up around the mansion. The surrounding dolls chanted in unison, Let's play with us. They surrounded Kim Gongja and discussed, what should we play? Freeze tag, what time is it, Mr. Wolf? All the ice has melted. Mr. Wolf is dead too. Let's play hide and seek. The dolls continuously sent out invitations. That's right, let's play hide and seek with us. The system displayed a notification, you have entered the boss's domain number of challengers. One hunter, Kim Gongja aura, also began to emanate from him. His face looked more belligerent and cool than ever. All right, let's play. The scene opened with the murmuring of Black Dragon reporters. Since the tower opened, they have still been the strongest guild. However, today they failed. For the 30th time, the Black Witch walked amidst the camera flashes of the reporters. Kim Gongja commented, I want to be like the Flame Emperor. Netizen A replied, Who are you? A Flame Emperor fan? Find someone better to admire. Seriously, I'm just telling the truth. Everyone knows what kind of person he is. Even knowing that the news still puts him on TV, he still commented, I want to be like the Flame Emperor. Netizen A continued to message, but he's such a jerk. How did he end up dating the Saintess? Or maybe that's how she became a Saintess. Netizen B was startled. What? When did they start dating? Netizen A continued to gossip. Yeah, I have a friend who's a hunter, and he saw them together. He commented again, I want to be like the Flame Emperor. Another person stepped in to correct him, damn it. I'm friends with the Saintess, she said. That's not true. He continued to comment, I want to be like the Flame Emperor.